All right, welcome to the Krueg Show, everybody. As we get rolling here, actually, we've already been rolling, and the Giants are rolling. It is 9:05 on a Tuesday night. I will gladly pay you on Tuesday. That's what the guy used to say in Popeye, and that's what Farhan said to the agent for Carlos Correa. We will gladly pay you on Tuesday. The Giants have signed Carlos Correa.
Yeah, baby.
They have thrown Carlos Correa the bag. 13 years, $350 million for Carlos Correa. Is it a good deal? Is it a bad deal? We could debate that. He becomes the new face of the franchise. He plays shortstop. He will continue to play shortstop. Crawford will move to third base, most likely. What do you think of this contract? Dan has vowed not to renew his season tickets. Will he switch over and renew tonight? We will find out. Is this enough for you to say, you know what?
Not done.
Farhan, we were wrong. We judged you too fast. Or do you still need to see more? I think for a lot of people, myself included, Carlos Correa seemed almost like the unattainable player here the last couple days, with teams like the Yankees and the Twins and the Cubs and the Dodgers all potentially floating out there as potential new homes for Correa. 13,350. What is that? 27 a year for Carlos Correa.
Yeah, and you know what I like about it, Larry?
What?
You save $13 million AAV versus signing Judge. Now you've got room to go get more. Go get more. Don't stop.
Sheffield 16 says it's an awful deal. Wow.
I'm still not. I mean, I really don't care at this point. Like, I love the Correa. I love that they somehow were able to pull this off. I actually think it helps the team more than Judge, maybe not with attendance, but
he's a safer free agent signing than Judge because he's been better and more consistent.
He's at a key position too, shortstop.
And he's younger.
And I think
13
Crawford
years
moves
though is
to
frightening.
second. I think Crawford moves to second instead of third. You still got JD Davis, VR, Flores, Estrada, all those guys
Casey
can play
Schmidt.
third. Casey Schmidt, Crawford,
Colton Welker.
Yeah, move Crawford to second because he already knows how to go in the hole. He knows how to go. It's just different sides. It's different, but it's similar more than third base. It's
Mike Vaz says, awesome news. We've got this one from Eric Sully. I can think of 13 reasons why I love my Giants. Welcome to the Bay, Carlos.
I got to change. We got
this one from Shante Ortega. Farhan had to do this so people would forget his comments that he said from a month ago. We didn't even get into the comments tonight. And lucky for Farhan, because that would have been an ugly conversation. The Recovery 716 donates $1.99. He says, worth it. 13 for 350 for Carlos Correa. It's worth it. Dodger fans, of course, hate Correa already because he won the World Series with the Astros, banging the drum.
Perfect.
But there you go.
You know what?
The Giants get a foundation piece player, a guy who's the best player on the team. He's going to play short. He's going to play short for the foreseeable future. I wonder if Pete Putila had a lot to do with this.
Yeah, maybe that was like the reason for bringing him in. Like, who knows? But I will say now I'm kind of just like, let's just get Rodon. Just bring him back. I mean,
that's the thing. I mean, are they really in it on Rodon or not? My sense is probably not.
All right.
Dan, how do you feel about signing Rodon at this point now? I feel
it's a little long, but put me in, coach. I'm ready to play.
Are you talking
center field? Put me in, coach.
Wait, what do you think about Rodon, Dan?
I would love Rodon if I got Rodon and I was able to get him, and I'm somewhere around the 25 million, 27 million again. Then I'm going to trade another one of my pitchers. I might even trade Logan Webb.
No,
if I can get listen, because he'll bring me the most. Webb and maybe Luciano and Matos, and I keep Harrison. You get Webb. Angels need pitching, and get Ohtani back. Now you got Rodon, Ohtani, Stripling, Manaea.
I'd rather trade Harrison for Ohtani.
But Harrison's going to be cheaper, and you got more years of control.
Yeah, but that's why he'd be more valuable.
I have invited. Here's the status, guys. It's me, you, and Danny right now. We got people in the chat, 300 people and climbing in the live stream as we're going. I've invited the great Ned Colletti. We'll see if he will be here or not. Ned. He hasn't yet to respond, but he may jump in. We have invited Mark Willard. Willard has responded. He says he needs about 20 minutes to get ready, but he will be joining us in a few. So that kind of sets the stage. The Giants so far missed out on Aaron Judge, and there was a lot of talk they were going to miss out on Carlos Correa, but they didn't. They land Carlos Correa. So Correa becomes the foundation piece going forward. Now, is this deal going to look bad in year 10, 11, 12, 13? Probably. But that's what it takes to win in free agency in 2022. And the Giants, there's really three ways to build a club. You can produce prospects, you can make trades, but trades are based on trading prospects. So really, prospects are, you have three avenues to improve your club. Two of them are tied to developing prospects. So the Giants have yet to be able to get to that point where they can develop prospects. So they had to go in the free agent market. So when you have to go in the free agent market, you are bound to be in a situation where you have to overspend. So I'm not going to sit here and bang on Farhan and complain about, it's a bad deal, 13 years, blah, blah, blah. I'm just not, because that is what it takes to swim in these waters. If you're an advocate for them swimming in these waters, and I am, you have to be okay with some bad years.
Yes, I love this deal. And here's why I love it. I'm not crazy about 13 years, but getting that AAV down allows you to go get more players right now and stay under that $239 million luxury tax or whatever it is, because if you had Judge for 10 years, now Judge is a better draw, obviously, than Correa. But
Mole drops a C note. Been working and traveling out of town the last month. Miss you boys. Watching most of these the next day, but can't miss my Krueg show every 1,000 subscriber traditional 8K. Mole, look at Mole dropping a C note on us. Way to go, brother. Appreciate you.
I love it. Thank you, Jim. Here's what
who can match Mole. Can anybody top Mole's C note?
Yeah, who could top it? Here's what makes sense. Judge would have drawn more in the seats, but this plan actually is better for the Giants on the field.
You can make an argument that Carlos Correa is a safer signing.
Yes,
baseball wise than Aaron Judge. I can see. Is that where you're going, Danny?
Yeah, at 20 plus 27 million to 40 million, that allows you to get more players. You look, if you traded a DeScalfani, now you've saved 12 million off DeScalfani, and you've got 13 million you're saving off Judge. That's 25 million. Take that 25 million and go parlay it into either Dansby Swanson for 8 years.
Take 24 of it, go put it on Swanson, take one of it and donate it on the Krueg show. I mean, do what you got to do with your 25 mil, right?
But I mean, you can be creative that way, because now you're taking this money, or, in my view, go all out and get Shohei. I mean, you're still probably close to 50 million under the cap. Go get
Look at Danny. Shohei. He wants Shohei. On the night the Giants just throw $350 million, you're more focused on what they're going to spend next.
Yes, Warriors sign Kevin Durant. Let's get Giannis.
Get Giannis too.
Hey, wait, Dan. Very important question I must ask you. Yes. What year were you born?
61.
And what month?
August.
Okay.
What, are you going to check his love line and
some crazy, stupid... one of those.
My guess is you're wearing purple underwear. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
All right, you will be 74 years old when this is done.
Yeah.
Danny's thinking, oh man, will Danny even be able to
Rye will be
see
40 and just moving out.
who will
I
make
will
it
be
to the end of
40
the
and
contract?
just
Carlos
about
or
to.
Danny? Who makes it to the end of the contract? Carlos or Danny?
I mean, odds are like maybe one of us. I'd say, I don't know. I might get hit by a truck.
Oh, don't
You never
say
know.
that.
Come on, now, let's not go
At
there.
least make it a bus. Don't make it a truck.
Okay, how about this? A limousine.
No, I mean, here's the thing. You got to remember, the Giants add Correa and they have some pitching, but they're still miles apart from the Dodgers and the Padres and the Phillies and the Mets and the Braves. At this point, they're still the 7th team. They're not in the playoffs yet. They need to do more because the Phillies
Let's
improved.
talk about that. Let's talk about it. What would you do to fill this team around Carlos Correa? Now, I mean, what they need a center fielder.
Yeah.
Is Belt coming back? If not, they need a first baseman. They probably could use another starting pitcher. Rye goes missing after a fantasy football disagreement. Paul Perriman.
Oh, wait, whoa, that's interesting. If that's true, 10
Twins
years,
offered 10 years, 285. He took the Giants deal for 13 years at 350.
He's
I mean, look
retiring.
at the Giants had to do to win a free agent bidding. They went 3 more years.
Yeah, and
At what a slightly less
and $65,000 more over the
65 million.
million. Yeah, 65 million more over the deal. That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's absolutely a huge deal.
he could retire if he's
Lucky
productive.
Lefty 80. Thank you for the $4.99. Productive or permaculture now says smack that like button. Yeah, hit like and subscribe if you're one of the near 400 people in the chat tonight. If you're just tuning in, you're saying, what are you guys all excited about? The San Francisco Giants have talked a big game as far as free agent pursuits the last couple of years, and they have not walked that walk. Tonight, they have walked that walk. 13 years, $350 million for arguably the top free agent on the market. Now, you can say Judge is the top free agent, but in reality, Carlos Correa is probably the better player career-wise.
Yeah,
I think Carlos Correa has probably done more in his career, and he's younger. He's a younger free agent at a more premium position, who's been a consistent guy. He's a 6'4" shortstop. He was the first pick in the draft. He's an impact guy. He's an absolute impact guy right in the middle of the diamond. Kid Trickster says, here's $2. Larry, what is the next move for an off season for you? I would say the next move is trading Marco Luciano, because Marco Luciano has real value in the game. Right now, he's listed as a offensive future power hitting shortstop.
He could be the future right fielder, though.
I think he's going to
Second base.
eventually become an outfielder. And
he'll be an outfielder.
Because of that, I would consider moving him if you could get a great player. Now, when I say a great player, I'm talking about like Corbin Burns. I'm talking about, Brian Reynolds and David Bednar. I'm talking about a deal that brings the kind of deal that makes the Giants appreciably better. And I would consider moving Luciano right now. I think now is when they need him. There's no guarantee that Luciano is going to fulfill his potential. And right now they could get a lot for him. So I think that's the direction I would go. I also would be very interested to kick tires on Will Myers. Will Myers owns this ballpark. He's a great offensive player at Oracle Park. He, for whatever reason, in a yard where most hitters don't like to hit, he does. So sign Will Myers and put him at first base, and maybe platoon him a little bit with Lamont Wade. But I definitely would go after Will Myers. That would be one guy I'd really want to get.
This is a very accurate statement by Will. What is it? Will
Jim 209 donates $4.99.
Okay.
Says this will be the move that attracts other stars to come here. Giants just completely turned around their offseason. Trade for Ohtani at the deadline.
Well, I want to get this Ohtani thing going because I do think that makes the hugest difference. Now you have two mega stars in Ohtani, and you're going to need a second star to compete. The Phillies now have.
Is Correa a megastar?
He is a star. He's not a mega star, but he's not. He's like considered.
What's the difference?
I mean, like he's like a all-star 2 out of like
There's only a couple
7
mega
years.
stars right now in the game, and that's Harper, Ohtani, and
Judge
and Trout. I mean,
I would describe Carlos Correa as a blue chipper. He's a blue chip player. Now, why do I say that? Okay. Wait, the Whopper commercial is jumping in here.
BK.
Damn. Enough of the BK commercials. Can I just make it end? Okay. Okay. He's gone over 20 home runs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and he's only 28 years old.
Has he ever hit 30?
No.
He's never hit 30. His high water mark is 26.
Gone over
he's
25 once.
He's a 20, 25 home run guy.
But he's also in those years, I mean, 20 last year 22 homers, 24 doubles. The year before that, 26 homers, 34 doubles. The last full year before that, 21 homers, 16 doubles, 15 homers, 20 doubles. So he pounds out a bunch of doubles as well. He's not a stolen base guy. He's really not going to steal at all. But he's going to hit for a good average. He's a 279 career hitter. He hit 291 this last year. His high water mark is 315. His high water mark on base percentage wise is 391. Those are good numbers for sure. You know, I mean, he's instantly the best player on the team, and most importantly, he's in the prime of his career. So, you know, can this deal look bad on the back end? Yeah, for sure. But this is what it needs. This is what it takes to compete.
I do think trades are coming. I can smell trades because of the loading up on the starting pitchers. Tells me that they may have another plan that they're looking at because and
trading. You mean trading Logan Webb or trading?
If you're going to go after Ohtani, it's going to take either Harrison or Webb, one of the two. Okay.
I mean, this is a hugely significant moment in history. Why? Because the Giants have been totally unable to attract premier offensive free agents to their ballpark since it opened. And this is the first premier guy that they've signed, to a monster contract who's an offensive player. So, I think that right there is a huge moment for the Giants.
Look what they've actually done right now. I mean, this is a game changer because what they've actually done now this offseason is Correa, Jock Peterson, Mitch Haniger, Ross Stripling, and Sean Manaea. So that's, Peterson was a retained player, but they've added 4 players, 2 position players, 2 starting
What's
pitchers.
the number one need right now?
Right now is
number one need. Would you say it's a center fielder? Is it a premier starter, a dominant 8th inning or 9th inning reliever, or are you going with something else? A first baseman? I personally would love to see them trade for a guy like Pavin Smith. I think Pavin Smith from the Diamondbacks is on the verge of a bust out, and right now I think he's totally gettable.
This may mean they're looking at Rodon still because they could add. See, if you get a Rodon,
I wouldn't go with Rodon. I wouldn't. I don't want to give Rodon $20 million for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years.
It would take 6 years. He may have.
I don't want to do that.
I understand you don't want to do it, but if you,
I don't think they want to do it.
I don't think they want to do it either, but they may look at doing it and saying, well, he's only 29. He has had 2 back-to-back pretty good years health-wise. If they found the Giants know him, okay? The medical staff knows him, the training staff, all of it. They know how to work with Rodon. Plus, Rodon probably appreciates the fact that they kept him healthy, whatever they were able to do. If you get Rodon and get 3 to 4 productive years, out of him. And let's say he's a 6-year deal and the last 2 years are just kind of like, wasn't so great. But you got 4 good years out of Rodon, 3 great ones and a solid 4th. Now your pitching staff looks like Rodon, Webb, Stripling, Mania. You got so much extra. Now you can take either a Harrison or a Webb and get Ohtani with a package deal. Because remember, when you get an Ohtani, you're not just getting the hitter, you're getting another pitcher back. So you're getting an ace.
I don't think they want to trade Harrison from De La Salle, who just pitched in the Futures game, who's their power lefty, who also is the first guy. If I'm Farhan, I need 2 things to happen. I need free agents to take my money, and I need the guys that I drafted high up in my farm system to reach the major leagues and succeed. If I do those 2 things, I think the fans are going to be happy. And if I do those 2 things, eventually I'm going to build a playoff team and the fans are going to be happy. So I hear what you're saying, Danny, and I do think a trade is coming of significance. I just think Kyle Harrison is not going anywhere. Hutch Serves Gaming donates $1.99. He says, definitely go get Ohtani. Please, Farhan, please get Ohtani. Let me pay off some of these super chats. 199 from the Recovery 716. He says, worth it. He's worth it. Correa is worth it. Will Jim 199. Will Jim 209 says, here's $1.99. Completely turned around the offseason. Correa's only 28. So a lot of people saying great news.
What you guys don't understand, some of the people in the chat with Ohtani is Giants ownership still wants to put people in the seats. Correa moves the needle a little bit, but not as much as Judge. Ohtani.
Ohtani. I mean, there's no doubt. Ohtani number 1 puts people in the seats.
Oh my goodness!
Outside of Ohtani, Danny,
with the culture in San Francisco,
is there another guy out there that you think puts people in the seats?
Someone
not
that
necessarily to that level, but
it would be someone that mashed home runs.
You want your center fielder, Mike Trout. He may be on the. Hey, the guy's 32 now.
How about just pure power? How about guys like Will Myers and Joey Gallo?
Well, Gallo's got a lot of power.
How about just adding some pure power to this mix?
Gallo would give you 25 homers and some nice moonshots into McCovey Cove, which would be nice. Plus, he plays a very good right field or left field. Got a cannon for an arm. He came up as a third baseman. Joey Gallo would add to the defense, would add to the home run total. He does strike out a lot, but
does it bother you guys that the Giants have now wed themselves to a 28-year-old shortstop through his 40th birthday, through really his 41st birthday, and he's a shortstop? I mean, Crawford right now, Crawford
35.
is a great shortstop. Yeah. He is one of the greatest defensive shortstops of his era. He's now 35. He's 35 and he's outgrown shortstop. Is Carlos Correa going to have, at the exact same age, going to have 6 more years?
It doesn't matter anymore, Larry, because the DH has changed everything for the National League. Correa could just become a DH. And
he loses so much value though if he's your DH.
He definitely does.
He's not. It's not like he's like that. It's like it's him, the player married with the position. Like that's what got him.
Let's say he's 36, 37. Okay, and he no longer has the range to he's 37. You still got him for 3 or 4 more years. Look at Pujols.
Danny, a lot of people in the chat are agreeing with you on Rodon. Jose says, I'll give Rodon 6 years, 35 per.
No, 35.
James
No,
says,
no.
I agree. Bring Rodon back. What is the most number of years you guys would feel comfortable going forward with Rodon?
5, maybe 6.
I would say 4.
The sad thing is they could have had him for 5 during August and September. They could have easily said, here, Carlos.
Or they could have had Gosman for like 5 for like 22.
22, exactly.
Senior Softball Games donates $2. Rodon knows now that they are serious about winning. Do you think Correa's signing was trying to send a message to Carlos that, hey, stop using us for leverage and come back here because we're real?
I think it says a lot. Carlos Correa is a top what would you say, top 20 player in the game?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that like he was like I think he was like I was just looking at like trying to get a feel, like, so I was like looking at like his MLB The Show rating and like looking at like the articles by ESPN and Bleacher Report ranking the top 100 guys. Like not last year, the year before, his best year when he was like 5 in MVP and a Gold Glove, he was the 15th ranked player in a lot of these lists, like consensus.
Mhm.
I
And
feel
then last year he was like, I think he was like 55 or something like that.
I feel like Danny is showing us up wearing the gear. I almost feel like I need to
know.
go get my Giants hat.
I changed, man.
All right,
I
hold
told
on.
my
I'm going to
wife,
get my Giants hat. I'm going to get my Giants hat.
Get me my Giants hat. Get me my Giants gear. I haven't put it on. Wasn't looking forward to putting it on after this going forward, but this is exciting. Am I ready to buy my season tickets yet? No. I think if they add a top flight, another ace pitcher, or if they add a solid everyday center fielder that's one of the top center fielders, or if they got Ohtani. They got Ohtani. You know, Rye, I'll tell you what. They add Ohtani to that mix. You're talking 40,000 there every night. That's what he does. And
well, that's what Ohtani would do. Yes,
exactly. And you think they would lose money even if they paid him $50 million? No. It would be packed. The place would be like Petco Park, the excitement that's going on down in San Diego, because now you got Correa and you got Ohtani, and you got him DHing every night and then pitching every. Oh, look at that hat!
You like that one?
What color is that? Is that
It's orange, man.
Is that authentic?
Do you like that?
It looks a little red.
Oh, it's orange.
It's orange is red. That isn't that's a knockoff hat.
All right, hold on. No, stop it.
That is a knockoff.
By the way,
hat.
my 13-year-old just said, Dan's losing his mind. All right, hold on. I'll be right back.
Over what, Ohtani? See, that's a different orange. I'm telling you, that's not the Giants orange.
It does feel like, I mean, honestly, it feels like Farhan. It feels very un-Farhan-y, and it feels like Farhan realizes that he actually is kind of on the hot seat, and that
it's good.
after the Judge thing, and this deal was one of those deals where he was like, "F it, this is not going to be around to. I mean, I'm not going to be around to get affected by this anyway. So, I'll be out in like no way Farhan is here for more than 4 more years."
Who knows how long but you got to do what you got to do to get.
You look like a shark, Larry. Great white.
Look at that.
Playoffs?
20
Trucker hat.
2012.
My kid said, Danny's losing his mind on this live stream. My 13-year-old.
A lot of people are saying that. Why? What? Because I'm talking about Ohtani or what?
Because you're talking Ohtani and he says, no, we got XX Bay Area 49ers donates $4.99. He says, what's this fantasy I keep hearing about Shohei Ohtani? Have the Angels publicly said they are shopping him?
No, we're just bringing it up. That's what sports talk is all about.
Yeah, seriously.
Dan's trying to get it going. I mean,
Dan's trying to get it going.
The Giants are a team he would look at just because he wants to be on the West Coast, and he didn't look at them before because there was no DH.
Right. Could you imagine how many people from Japan would fly into San Francisco just to watch?
Well,
him?
now we're talking about Ohtani, though, but we need to talk a little more Correa.
Well, Correa is a move, but it can't be the final piece because it's still not a playoff team.
I mean, are you guys feeling at all like I initially, like, I was so freaking stoked, and now that I've just like had like a few seconds to kind of calm down, I was telling Dan, Larry, it feels a little bit like Farhan knows, he's actually legitimately on the hot seat, and that he upset the fan base with the Judge stuff, and this deal is this deal won't affect me because I'm probably not going to be here more than 5 years, even if things go well. So
you had to get ownership.
I'm just going to get somebody.
You had to get ownership.
I think the ownership wanted a big splash. The fan base wanted a big splash. They wanted Judge because Judge was going to sell tickets. But in a lot of ways,
baseball-wise,
probably helps
much more.
them win more, right?
I like this deal more than Judge for the play on the diamond. I understand the ownership and the excitement of Aaron Judge and the local kid. the 62 homers, all of that puts cheeks in the seats. I get it. And it makes total sense. But from a baseball standpoint, your strongest positions of need are up the middle.
What do you think of this one? Jeremy Lopez is, how about Ramon Laureano? He would solve the center field problem.
That would be so
I think
good.
that makes a lot of sense.
That would be awesome.
Ramon Laureano is a perfect Giant.
I'm fine with that. But I'm telling you, what makes this deal tick is not just Correa being a really, an all-star shortstop and a star player, but you're getting him for 20. Forget the 13 years, okay, everybody? Just forget the 13 years. He wasn't going to sign for 6 or 7, okay? That's just not the market.
It's just the way it goes. It's like
yeah. So you look at the 27 million.
If you want to swim in these waters, and this is the only avenue that the Giants can go in right now, because to me, Correa was the gotta have. Why? Because Correa gives you that impact player in the middle of the diamond, which is where they said they want to get more athletic. Now you're adding a 6'4" athlete in the middle of the diamond, but it also gives you the ability to turn around and trade 2 guys that are incredibly valuable within the game. Marco Luciano and that Averson Arteaga. There's a lot of people that really like those 2 middle infielders. And now you don't need 10. Either of those guys, because Carlos Correa is going to be playing shortstop for the next 13 years. So you don't need Luciano and you don't need Arteaga.
Well,
you can trade those guys.
You may be Arteaga, but Luciano is still a possibility of being a power hitting.
Yeah, like if I'm a little worried about, like, if we traded away Luciano and let's say like, but like, what if he just is really good and then Correa Correa kind of goes on the decline? It's like, what? Well, we already had no prospects.
I don't think Luciano's is gonna play shortstop.
No, he's not even gonna play infield.
I think he's a right fielder or left fielder.
But don't we need like some young, or else? Okay, yeah. I'd be down to trade Luciano if we're also gonna get Rodon, because then that means we're all in for the now. I don't want to be on.
Let's talk about Luciano for a second, okay? He played this last year in the minor leagues. He played 65 games. 227 at bats. He had 12 doubles, 11 home runs. Now that's a great number, right? That means that he's on pace for over 20 home runs on the year, 36 RBIs, but he hit 269 in the minors. Now, granted, he was one of the younger guys, I believe, at his level, and he did have a 350 on base, but still, we're talking about a guy who hit 269 in the minors not at AAA. What year? Who did he play for this last year, Danny? Did he play A-ball and AA?
Yeah, he got called up to AA at the very end for the playoffs at Richmond.
So for 2 teams, he hit 269 in the minors.
The biggest problem he had,
there's no guarantee that
he missed 2
that's even a major league hitter at this point.
I
think if he had hit 369 in the minors, then okay, I'm fearful to trade this guy. 269 in the minors. The
problem was, Larry,
he had something for him.
He was out for 2 months with a back injury, so that cost him. That's another reason, back and Correa's had some back injuries too. But what everybody needs to get off the 13 years and realize, you're not getting a top player in this market to sign for 5-6 years unless you're willing to pay him 60-70 million a year.
But maybe 8 or 10.
Look how big the Giants had to outbid the Twins to make this happen. Twins go 10 for 285. Giants went 13 for 350.
Yeah, so they got the 8. See, you want to look at the 8.
Look what they had to do to win a free agent. I mean, it's like trying to buy real estate in San Francisco. You better show up with your checkbook, or you better show up with cash in hand, or forget it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about 13 years. What I'm looking at is AAV. Now, a guy like Ohtani, yeah, it's going to take closer to 50 million to get him. But that's why you get other guys with lower AAVs. Also, they may be.
But Dan, also, like the worst thing to have is just these old guys that are just nothings, that are just lingering on your team, and you can't get rid of them.
But nobody should worry about the Giants financially, because the Giants last year ownership pocketed $20 million of money that they should have reinvested in the club, and they just put it in their own pocket. And when you say, where did you get that number, Larry? Well, I'm just saying that if the Giants had spent the same percentage of their revenue that the Dodgers spent on their payroll, that would have equated into $20 million more than the Giants ultimately spent. LA spent 52% of their revenue on player payroll. Giants spent 47%. If they just spent even with the Dodgers, they would have spent not spent the same dollar figure, but the same percentage of revenue even with the Dodgers. That would have added $20 million to the payroll. They kept that last year. Now they got to take all that money, and it's time to get serious. The Padres are for real. The Dodgers are going to compete at the highest level.
Yeah,
Arizona's young and athletic. Colorado's young. You've got an older team. You got a farm system that you believe is coming but isn't there yet. You had to make a serious commitment in the free agent market. You talked a huge game. You titillated your fans. You got everybody excited. Mitch Haniger wasn't going to be enough. And neither was Ross Stripling. And I like these guys, but they wasn't going to be enough. They needed this kind of player. It's a huge moment for Farhan.
By the way, with the thing with Willard, did you send him the link to the old chat we were in, or did you send him? Do you have to send him the one we're in?
No, he said he'll be here in about 8 or 9 minutes.
Okay, so here's the thing that everybody needs to realize and look at is that let's look at the National League. Let's start with the National League West. Right now, the Giants, if you looked at everything on paper, they're third behind the Dodgers and the Padres. Move over to the Central. You're going to have one team make it. It's going to be the St. Louis Cardinals.
But go back to the division for a second, Dan, because I think that's where you should start this conversation.
I think that's where this conversation honestly comes to a halt.
And look at the Giants' record in the division. They were 33-43 against the NL West. They were 10 games under 500 against their own division.
And Arizona's getting better.
They have the same division record as the Rockies.
Right. So you're in a tough division. You've got San Diego with 4 stars in their everyday lineup. Okay. You got Soto, Machado, Tatis, and Bogarts. The Giants still only have 1 star in their lineup. Okay. Now that they signed Correa. So you're 4-1 there with the Padres. You look at the Dodgers. They got Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and those 2 guys, and they may end up with Swanson possibly. I'm not sure. But they've got some really good other hitters that are in that lineup. Okay. Lux is a good hitter. They've got James Outman, who's coming up. The guy hit for the cycle twice at AAA last year. They got Miguel Vargas. They reload. Dodgers are going to be, and they got the catcher there, who's Will Smith. He's a pretty good hitter. So the Dodgers have much better lineup right now than the Giants do. You want to look at Arizona. I mean, they're going to have some guys that are pretty good. But what I want to look at is you got to make the playoffs. If you want to make the playoffs, the National League East had 3 teams last year, and they all got better. I mean, the Braves are still going to be great. And the Mets and the Phillies got better. Okay? So that's 2 wild cards coming from the National East. And probably 1, let's see. Yeah, there's 3 wild card teams that make it, right? Yes. So you're going to be competing for a wild card against either the Dodgers or Padres and the Mets, Braves, and Phillies. So you're still below them.
No, I mean, there's no doubt. There's just no doubt. Nobody's arguing.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't think this.
Parker
so this is
11
why
donates $2.
This is why people say I'm crazy. This is why I'm saying you got to go for more.
They're not done yet.
I don't think they are, but that's why I'm pushing Ohtani, someone like that, because Ohtani is going to be traded at some point, or they're going to lose him to free agency. He doesn't want to play for the Angels.
But do the Giants, ultimately it comes down to, do they have the prospects to entice the Angels to make that kind of trade?
Because the Giants.
Parker 11 donates $2. Said
Angels
trade for Byron Buxton and Corbin Burns. We got this one who's kind of interesting. Mike Spediacci says 270 average, 20 homers, 60 RBIs, 120 strikeouts, and no stolen base averages in tiny Houston. No Gold Gloves either. What am I missing? Well, I don't know that you're missing anything. I'm not going to sit there and say that those numbers aren't legit, but I think what you're looking at, to me, ultimately, if the big time players shine in October, and go look what Carlos Correa has done in October. In two ALCS wild cards, he's a 300 hitter with a 417 on base. In 16 playoff series, he's got a 272 average with 344 on base. In the ALDS, he had 290 with a 383 on base. So I mean, this is a guy who is a big time offensive player. He's a blue chip player.
Questionably, some of that was with some buzzers, though.
What's that?
Some of that stuff might have been with some buzzers.
What do you mean buzzers?
Like the Astros
with
buzzers.
some help. I got you. Anonymous. Breaking news: Kapler fired. Ron Wotus hired as new manager. Yeah.
Yeah, he won a Gold Glove one year.
He did what? Correa. Yeah, he's got one Gold Glove, right?
Yeah. Other than that, though, I do kind of get that what he's saying. Like in terms of, for some reason, when I went to his baseball reference, like in my mind, I felt like it was like a lot more like electric than. I think just because he had that great year in 2021, that just lingered in my mind.
I mean,
he's 28 and he's also well respected. He's liked in the clubhouse. He's a winner. He was the number 1 draft pick. He's a guy that's probably just coming into his prime right now.
But like also he doesn't like, I think if you were to go ask Las Vegas right now, like he's probably worth like what, 3.5.
What's
5
his WAR?
wins?
What was his WAR last year?
5.2 or something like that. Carlo Pieces, Larry said yesterday, you cannot let the Twins outbid you. I mean, this is really about Farhan and this whole regime and trying to, pivot off of Judge. And, I mean, Dog said it best. Danny, you were there at the winter meetings. He said it that day from the winter meetings on High Heat on his show, which was that the Giants teased their fans with a pursuit of Judge, and they had to deliver. And so that's just really it. The Giants finished 500, but you guys both know that was the weakest 500 in the history of 500. They went on some unbelievable run when everybody else had pretty much phoned it in down the stretch. They're still playing. Everybody else is playing young guys and looking towards the future. They're playing their veterans and grinding out every win in this, we must get to 500 for message sending purposes. They weren't a 500 team. They were far worse than a 500 team, and everybody knows it. And then they titillated their fans with this, we're going to go after Aaron Judge, and they didn't get him. Okay. And there's no crime in that. Aaron Judge was the toast of New York, and he went back to New York. So I have no problem with that at all. To me, it was just about, what are you going to pivot to? What are you going to do next? You have needs all over the diamond, and they still have
get Rodon. I feel like if you bring in Correa and lose Rodon, that might like even out. So I say I say bring him back and just go all in. If you're gonna just spend money and you want to compete, do it. Like,
well,
nobody else is as good as Rodon that's out there.
Yeah, when the Giants won their World Series, 3 World Series, they didn't have the best talent in baseball. It was
they had pitching. Pat Burrell and Travis Ishikawa,
but they also had a lot more stars than people say.
Well, no, but it was their.
And they had a Hall of Fame catcher, Hall of Fame manager.
Yeah, it was their pitching,
bullpen,
and
their bullpen, absolute, and their defense, and this is how you build the team. Is what I was just saying last week, and I was saying build it through pitching, and I said go get more pitching, and get defense. I think Casey Schmidt's going to probably maybe come up, sometime mid-year. And they're saying, and I heard Will Clark say this on your show, Larry, on the game, that Casey Schmidt is like...
He likes him. He likes Casey Schmidt.
I think he's like a real gamer. I mean, a true...
He compared him to Matt Chapman as a
Matt Chapman.
He's
an unbelievable third baseman.
Those were the two best... players they had in the minors last year, as far as other than maybe David VR.
You never know. Maybe they luck out. Maybe they get to spring training and Casey Schmidt's ready to roll, and you can go Casey Schmidt, Carlos Correa on the left side, and play Crawford at second. I I still think I'd like to see Will Myers at first or a Pavin Smith. I think I'd like to see another catcher in addition to Joey Bart. But to me, the biggest need is they need an everyday center fielder. Not once a week, not twice a week, not a platoon guy, because I think what you're setting up for is Haniger is going to play one outfield corner. I think Yaz plays the other outfield corner. They'll probably wind up platooning Yaz. And they don't have a center fielder. I mean,
And Jock. I mean, Yaz will play a little center.
Jock's your DH.
Jock's your DH.
Yeah.
No.
Look at I think we may have hit an all-time high tonight in the chat. Right
Seriously,
now we're at
close to 700 people in there.
641.
Yeah, who said baseball doesn't get numbers?
Yeah. Everybody who's in the chat right now, maybe you're here for the first time. Krug Show, we're on regularly, almost nightly.
We've never worn Giants hats on the show.
Yeah.
This is the first time ever.
I wear them in the baseball season, but this is the first time I've ever seen Larry in a hat. Yeah. So if you're here for the first time, hit the like button and subscribe. It's free. Okay. We're growing the channel.
Hey, by the way, Danny, Ned says he's driving, but if Rye can hook him up, he can go audio. Rye, can you add Ned?
I mean, yeah. Can I just call him?
Yeah.
Oh.
You have his number, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Yes, I have Ned's number.
We're going to be talking soon to the great Ned
Colletti's
Colletti.
going to drop by and give us his perspective on this. This is going
Former
to be really interesting.
assistant GM with the Giants to Brian Sabian, and also the GM for the Los Angeles Dodgers for about 10, 12 years, something like that.
I don't think you need to give him an intro. You might need to tell him who you are, but they don't. They know who Ned is.
Some people might not. I mean, there's some casual baseball fans.
That's true. Will Jim 209 says, here's $4.99. This will be the move that attracts other stars to come here. Giants just completely turned around their offseason.
Oh, yeah, we read that one. He
Okay,
double. Will Jim 209 got a double for his $4.99.
We got this one. Hutch Serves Gaming. Definitely get Ohtani, please.
We read that
Farhan.
one too. We read that one.
How about this one? How many years into this 13-year contract will it take for the Giants to become real contenders? That's a good question. What do you think, Dan?
I think if they
Still
add
kind of
more,
depends.
it depends on what they do. Right now, they're on the outside looking in at the playoffs. You know, as I see it, I don't see them better than Philadelphia, New York, Atlanta, LA, San Diego, and St. Louis. You know, somebody in the Central gets the division. So, and Milwaukee's a tough team too. I mean, they're making some moves. Milwaukee just got Contreras from the Braves the other day in that Sean Murphy trade, that three-team trade. Contreras, the catcher that was with the Braves, the brother of I get them mixed up. Which one's name? What was the
Wilson Contreras is now
Yeah.
now with the Cards, replacing Yachty.
Yeah. So didn't they also sign another catcher, the Cardinals?
That is a good question. I'm not really sure.
I thought they signed somebody else. Oh no. Wilson Contreras is with the Cardinals. His brother, what's his brother's first name?
I don't know.
The guy with the Braves? You know, Ryan?
Dan, you got to use Google, man.
Seriously, this wondering about shit constantly is annoying the hell out of me.
Anyway, he's with the Milwaukee Brewers now, and he was an all-star last year for Atlanta. So William, that's it. Someone in the chat, Matt, said William. Thank you. A couple of people said William. Okay, several people said William. Thanks. I knew it started with a W, but I wasn't sure. So William Contreras. So Milwaukee's going to be, a possible wild card fringe team right there. So you're really going up to make the playoffs. The Giants, in my opinion.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm going to
step.
I'm going to pop out for a second and dial up Ned.
Okay. Constantine Avdalis donates $4.99 just for the hell of it. Just saying, hey, I'm Constantine Avdalis and I'm here.
Yeah, hey, you guys, recognizing a lot of new names in the chat. Hit that like and subscribe button. That would be awesome.
What do you guys think of the pickup, though? I like it. I like it. We've got this one from Sheffield 16. Larry, would you trade Luciano for AJ Puck and Cole Irvin to the A's?
No.
No. Puck's had injuries. I don't know tons about Irvin, but I would want. The A's have Ramon Laureano, and Laureano, I think, in a lot of ways, would be a great Giant. Laureano reminds me a little bit of Eric Burns in that he plays the game with infectious joy and energy, and he's fun to watch. And I would love to see Ramon Laureano, who has a tremendous arm, can play center field. Now he's not Willie Mays, he's not Darren Lewis, he's not like a stellar center fielder, but he's at least a flashy, solid center fielder. I'd love to see a guy like Ramon Laureano. And then you got Haniger in left and Yaz in right, and who knows about some of the young guys coming up through there. But that's the route I would go. The other guy that I'd be really interested in is Brian Reynolds, because I think Reynolds in center field would be a nice get. That was the guy that Bobby Evans should never have traded, and he traded him for a short-term quick fix of Andrew McCutchen, and it's burned the Giants ever since. So I would love to get Reynolds back, and I'd love to get Will Bednar, or Will Bednar's brother, David Bednar, out of Pittsburgh in that trade as well, and give this bullpen another eighth inning guy. Glass half full guy says, here's $4.99. This is great, but who else can the Giants add? I don't want to just be content with Correa, as good as he is. Danny, what do you think? Who's next on their list?
I really don't know what direction they're looking at. I don't know if they're looking at, another outfielder. I feel like
a first baseman. Who's going to play first base?
They're looking at Flores, and
that's weak.
JD Davis and Lamont.
JD Davis is playing third.
Yeah, but he also plays first. They moved those. That's what they're kind of been looking at.
Would you bring back Brandon Belt? This guy says bring back Belt.
I have no problem bringing back Brandon Belt on a 1 year low end deal. Maybe with incentives.
What about this one? BCast 12. Joey Gallo. You are a San Francisco Giant.
I have no problem with Joey Gallo.
How about Gallo and Will Myers to add a little power to these proceedings?
Yeah, the thing that they got to look at here's why I believe a trade is coming.
I do too.
They're 2 men over on the 40-man roster, and if you look at that roster, Marco Luciano and Luis Matos, who are a few years away.
Right. That's why
they're
those guys
up 40-man roster spots. Okay. Right. So those are guys, usually you don't put anybody on the 40-man roster unless they're going to be up helping you at some point in the season. So they had to put them on the 40-man roster to not lose them to the Rule 5 draft.
or Seb GT15 says, I prefer Brian Reynolds. The outfield is still very weak. Corey Cooper says, go get Reynolds or Laureano. Mike Vaz says, Larry, to get Pavin Smith, would the Giants take Bumgarner back as part of the trade? I'll say this. I understand Bumgarner's got $40 million left on his deal, but I would take the Giants have money and they don't have our young players. I would take Bumgarner's $40 million off Arizona's hands if they would give me a couple young players. I'd take Carson Kelly and Pavin Smith. I'd take Dalton Varsho and Pavin Smith. I'd take the kid McCarthy, and they got the Diamondbacks have a lot of young outfielders, and Pavin Smith can play first. Carson Kelly can play behind the dish. They've got some young pieces there, and they don't have the kind of money to keep paying Bumgarner. I would take that back. I would take Bumgarner back. Now, what is Madison at this point? I think he's a solid back of the rotation starter. If you put him back at Oracle Park, I think it's worth it. And you're only making the trade. I wouldn't do it just to get him, because I think he's faded enough and he's obviously owed a lot of money. But I would pay his $40 million to get them to throw you Pavin Smith, because I think Pavin Smith's going to hit 25 to 30 home runs and bust out as a first baseman. And I think he would be phenomenal. He was a high pick. I think he might have been I know he's a first round pick. He might've been a top 10 pick coming out of college. He's got a beautiful stroke, left-handed hitter. He's just coming into his power. They don't see him as a everyday guy. They got Christian Walker. that would be the guy I would try to get this offseason is Pavin Smith. And if I could get them to throw him to me because I took Bumgarner's contract off their hands, I would do it because I think also Mad Bum would be a popular Giant and a valuable member of the rotation.
He could play center and first base, Pavin Smith.
Wow. I love Dalton Varsho too. I mean, Corbin Carroll's great. I mean, they got a bunch of guys. Yeah, but I don't think they're trading Carroll, but I think they are trading Pavin Smith.
Well, yeah, they're not trading Corbin Carroll. He's their untouchable, they said. But McCarthy's available. Alex, their center fielder, the young lefty center fielder's available. McCarthy's available. Pavin Smith's available. So they've got a huge number of extra outfielders, and they're going to trade one of those guys. Varsho would be really good because he could play. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he can play right field and catch. So now and he's a lefty. So now you can platoon Bart. If Bart's having trouble hitting right-handed pitching.
The only question is. Are they willing to trade with the Giants at all? Because they're in the same division.
Yeah. The other question will be, does Correa, he is your shortstop, but is he your shortstop this year? Does he agree to play third base for 1 year and let Crawford play short? Or do they move Crawford to second and Correa takes short? I mean, that's something I'm sure they discussed that with him.
What do you think of this one? Mercedes, BMW, Porsches. Kyle Harrison, would you trade Kyle Harrison for 1 year of Shohei Ohtani? Now that one is tough. See, this is the intriguing part about the Ohtani. Do you wait for him to become a free agent and try to outbid the Dodgers? Or do you trade for him right now the way the Padres traded for Soto, and maybe it doesn't cost you quite as much in a prospect deal as because you don't have him signed and you only have him for 1 year and it is a rental. Just take that 1 year and while you have him in-house, sell him in the Bay Area and get him signed long-term. Would you trade Kyle Harrison for Ohtani without a guarantee?
No.
Ohtani would sign long-term.
I think you can work out. This is why when we get Ned on, we can find out. I think you can work out a deal pre-trade, a contract. And you get that done. There's two reasons why you trade for him instead of the open free agent war. You trade for him, you control him, and you get the contract. If you go into free agency, the last thing you want to see is facing him at the Dodgers for 10 years. I mean, the Dodgers will go to any length to win over the Giants. I mean, they would probably pay $55-60 million a year. And here's the other thing about baseball that I want to talk about. People are talking about, losing money or revenue. Does it really matter if teams spent even 60% of their revenue on payroll? These guys are still making millions. Now, do you realize that if you spent money.
Everybody's got to have some cutoff point and some budget.
But if you spent more money on players that were stars that filled the stadium, like an Ohtani or a Judge, and you have that, and you have a Correa, and you have solid pitching, and you have a mega star. To me, Ohtani's the biggest star in the game. Okay.
But here's the thing, and I do agree with senior softball games. Winning puts people in the seats.
Not necessarily. They didn't do it.
It has in the history of San Francisco Giants baseball,
but not really that great in even after winning 107 games.
Pause that thought. We've got Mark Willard who's joined we're adding Mark to the stream. He's joining us from Parts Unknown. Mark, thank you for joining us. Ned Colletti is going to be joining us at some point via phone, driving through Southern Cal. Give us your reaction. Carlos Correa, 13 years, $350. What'd you think of the signing? What did you say today? Before you get into that, I saw your tease when you were jogging this morning about Farhan and the comments that he had made in that article that Susan Slusser had about the Bay Area. What was I missed your show because we were down at Niners. Give me on 95.7 The Game. Give me an idea of what you guys talked about today. And for those who didn't see that article, what Farhan said that, I don't want to say set you off, but at least ignited the thought.
Yeah, first off, don't ever miss my show again. That's ridiculous. But no, man, I and like, good evening, you guys. Like, it's so good to talk to you. I mean, it caught me off guard because it got my mind thinking about things that I've never even considered in this process. And it took me a while before I realized he actually made these comments a month ago, which in a way made him worse. Look, we've talked to Farhan. He's a really good, genuine dude. I don't think he thought that these comments were going to land this way. I don't think he meant them this way, but it almost made it sound like he was saying, look, Bay Area, we're trying for free agents, but we can't get them because of you, in a way, like, because your city isn't what it used to be. And I think a lot of us have feelings about that, and maybe there is some truth to it on some level, but at the same time, it's like, you can't tell me that in San Francisco Bay Area, that across the board, that's preventing you from getting free agents. Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Tampa Bay, these cities can get free agents and the Bay Area can't because it's liberal and because it's going through, some interesting times the last couple of decades. I just thought, and to say that right before you were going to go into free agency, that was wild to me. It was almost like you're sending a message to people like they should be asking, is something wrong with the Bay Area? Should I not want to live there? That was wild to me. It caught me off guard. I don't think it landed the way he thought it was going to land. And so I thought it was a mistake. I don't think it was a, death blow. I don't think it was one that he can't recover from. Certainly, to follow it up with this is going to make it all go away. But I thought it was a mistake.
All right, hold that thought for a second. We got one chat here. Caster FG says, here's $4.99. The Giants' defense was terrible last year, and Carlos Correa, being one of the best defenders in the game, will definitely attract pitchers to San Francisco. Okay, that being said, if you're joining us now in the chat, we're approaching 800 people in the room. We've got Dan Coach Emilio, Ryan Smith, the great Mark Willard from 95.7 The Game, and now joining us on the guest line is our good friend Ned Colletti, former GM of the Dodgers and assistant GM of the San Francisco Giants, a man who's signed many a free agent, including Barry Bonds, to multiple contracts and knows these waters well. And he joins us to give us his perspective. Ned, thank you very much for jumping on the line with us here, 10 o'clock at night, midweek. But these free agent things never happen, it seems like, in a timely fashion. Give us your reaction on the Giants and Farhan Zaidi landing Carlos Correa, 13-year deal for $350 million.
Well, I think, in all due respect, I think the numbers are high.
Yeah.
It's the rate of going business, I guess. But I think they're in a situation where they needed to do something, and they needed to fix the middle of their lineup, so to speak, and also the middle of their defense. So I can understand the deal from that perspective. I think that I'm not saying they were desperate, but I think that they probably felt that they really needed to do something. And I can't tell you that I would have guessed those numbers a week ago, in all due respect to a really good player. But hey, I guess that's the going rate. But I think sometimes when you put yourself in a situation where you have to do something in a way, sometimes you got to pay for that.
I want everybody to be able to ask you a couple questions here, Ned. But let me jump right in with the first one. Give us your thumbnail on the player himself. He's a younger free agent. He's a shortstop. He's had a lot of success last year with Minnesota, previously with the Astros. What is your thought on Carlos Correa as a player?
Well, he's a very good player. There's no doubt. I mean, as I said, they got somebody that's going to, they can build a lineup around a bit. They've also got somebody that plays in the middle of the field. So that's always a key thing. I think the player itself, I think that piece of it is what they needed to do. I think he's going to help the club. I think it also is pretty interesting with the Dodger Giant rivalry. You've got a former Astro who's had his
Hate it.
moments in LA since. But, he's a good player. There's no doubt.
Mark, jump in. I'm sure you got some thoughts that you'd like to throw Ned's way.
Well, I just, Ned, you're absolutely right. I think in the numbers for all of these players look out of whack, and that is the going rate. But I wonder, just in your experience, I think there's so many people who still have questions about Farhan Zaidi in this town, and so now when now they're spending this is a spending off season, and he's had the sort of the moniker that he won't do that. But I'm wondering how a deal like this even comes together. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you got Scott Boras, you've got a big time free agent. I'm sure Giants ownership was incredibly involved in this. Can you take us behind the art of a major free agent deal, how it comes together, and kind of who's calling the shots in the end?
Well, I think it's always going to fall to ownership at the end. Even going back to, as Larry said, I did 2 contracts with Barry, including the one after he hit the 73 home runs, which obviously, and Scott did that one too. So obviously there was a bit of leverage for Barry at that point as well as Scott. But ownership always has the final say. Again, without being in the room, I can take an educated guess that they knew every step of the way. They agreed all the way to the end that this was okay. They gave their blessing to it. They understand their situation better than anybody as far as where their team is at, where their farm system is, where their fan base is, what people are expecting. So it goes, all the way to the very, very top. I think the dynamic of this with Scott, and, Scott and I had our battles. We did deals for a long time, and not all of them got finished, or they got finished, but they didn't get finished with a signature, and a lot of them did. But, he is a very wise and a very sharp agent. Obviously, he's probably the greatest in the history of the sport. So, he reads situations too. He knows where the franchise was. He knows where the thought process is. He knows where, if you want to call it, I'm not saying it's desperation, but if you want to call it as, he kind of had them where he wanted them. Again, as I said, the player's a great player. The numbers and I hadn't seen the numbers until Larry just spoke them. That to me is, blew me away when I heard that. So, Scott knows. Scott knows what he's got. Scott knows the dynamics of every situation he enters into. He's the most well-prepared agent I ever dealt with. He sees, while people look at today, he's looking at teams a year, 2, 3 down the road and kind of moving chess pieces to get players he represents in advantageous spots. And I think that this spot was very advantageous to Correa and also to Scott.
Ned, you as I said, you did this job, so you know better than anybody, and you've pitched San Francisco to free agents. What is their concern? Is it the ballpark? Is it this deal obviously Boras is getting a monster deal as far as years and numbers for Correa. It's a no-brainer. But as far as when guys have said, we're not interested, is it west of the Mississippi? Is it California tax? Is it liberal politics of San Francisco? Is it the ballpark? What is it? Why is it that the Giants have had such trouble, you think, attracting free agent hitters through the years?
Well, I'll just keep it general with West Coast. You have a lot of players from the East. You have a lot of players from the Southeast. You have a lot of players from Latin America. It's a ways away. Not that you can't solve it with a private jet or whatever, but people have. It's a different environment as far as how far away it is from where people grow up, where people are comfortable, where people do not have to pay a state tax as high as this one. We can't, as much money as people make playing sport, we can't deny that paying a state income tax at the rate that they do doesn't cross their mind. When I signed Greinke a few years ago, it was us in Texas. no state tax in Texas. The money we gave Greinke was about the same that Texas had offered, according to people who were in the know on both sides after the deal was made. But I knew I was doing an uphill battle if we were close because of that. And so I gave him an out after 3 years. I had to do something else because of the state tax. And that, as much as anything, I think plays into a thought process. And you've got the distance a little bit. I don't have any idea about the politics. I've never heard that before. But I think the distance is sometimes it. And I think the state tax is also a factor. Corey Seager left LA for Texas. What did he save? $30 or $40 million in tax?
Yeah.
Even if you made $300 million, $30 or $40 million, still a lot of money.
No doubt. We're going to let Dan Cochimilio ask you a question, maybe against our better judgment. But Dan, fire away. We got Ned Colletti with us.
How you doing, Ned? Hey, Ned, two things. One, this contract is for 13 years, $350 million. I actually like it better than the Judge. If they had landed Judge, I know Judge would have put more people in the seats, but the AAV on this deal is $27 million a year as opposed to 40, which allows the Giants to actually improve, which they need to, because if you look at the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Phillies, Mets, and Braves, the Giants are still, in my opinion, a team that's looking on the outside looking in at the playoffs. They're still not there. So they need to still add. What would you do to add to this team as you look at it right now? Would you see the need as another ace like Rodon, or is it another star player that maybe they go out and trade for? I was suggesting, hey, now that you got your shortstop, they've got a young stud named Marco Luciano, and they've got some other guys. Go after Ohtani because they need him, and they're not going to get him, I don't think, in free agency. Their only shot to get an Ohtani would pack the house is trade for him. What do you think?
Well, Ohtani is a tremendous player. And yes, he will, all these numbers we're talking about for free agency, I don't think anybody will be higher than him a year from now.
I think he's 10,500.
Or that class. And so, the uniqueness of the skill set, the whole thing is very, very unique, as I'm sure his agent will be saying in the months to come. I think that the most dangerous piece is your pitching. You can't win without it. But if you're talking about 5, 6, 7 years with a starting pitcher, the healthiest among them will keep you up at night, wondering if they're going to make it through. I mean, if you're talking about 5 years, you're talking about 150 starts. That's a lot of starts, especially in this day and age. So, the pitching is, you can't win without it. I think that is also, though, the most precarious. And the pitchers out there, you got one guy they know really well, but they also know him really well. So is that a detriment to signing him, or is it a positive? I guess we'll find out in the days to come. But I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, Danny. You can't win without it. But unless you develop your own, you are always taking a chance, a big chance, a roll of the dice chance that you don't take with position players for the most part. And Correa is a much more, I guess, predictable signing than any starting pitcher that was signed so far or will be signed in the days and weeks and months to come. Far more predictable because a position player. The pitching is the toughest. I mean, a 7-year deal. Clayton had never really been hurt. He works out. He's a champion. He's a Hall of Famer. He's as strong a character as you would ever find. I can't tell you that it was easy to do that. And he's talking about a guy that would always post at that point in time, and you trusted in every which way you could think about, and it was still like, whoa, it's a lot of iron. We got to hope that everything's going to be okay. So it's a tough one. But I think the team, I think they need some more players. They need, they may have enough pitching to get them started. Do they have enough to last a full season? These guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to come and go in their performance. That's the way it goes. You need far more than 5 starting pitchers. I mean, you probably need 8 or 9 that are quality, tough to do, but that's probably what you need. And, I think that they took a huge step with this signing tonight, but I don't see them beating the Padres or the Dodgers yet. I don't see them beating them.
Yeah.
You talk about the Mets and Atlanta, that's a whole, in Philly, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, exactly. Did you hear they signed Ross Stripling as well today?
I did. And Ross Stripling is one of my favorites. We drafted him. I'll give you the scouting report on Ross. You will never doubt the effort. He will always compete. There will be nothing that he doesn't do in preparation and attempt to do in execution. We'll find no fault with that. Is his stuff high end? No. Is his mind high end? Yeah, it's up in the higher bracket of how people think of the craft of pitching. He's one of the best at that. But again, he's not, he may be a 5th starter. He may be a swing guy. He may start. He may relieve. He may give you 2 or 3 innings at a time. He's that type of talent. But as far as the person inside the uniform and how he goes about what he does, they will never doubt whether or not he's all the way in, 90% in, 5% in. It's always 100% in. He will do everything he can to help his team win.
Hey, Ned, we appreciate you hanging with us. Rye's got one for you, I'm sure. Rye, go ahead. You've been waiting patiently. Go ahead.
Well, first I was going to say, it sounds like you're describing Brock Purdy, but
yeah, we got Brock Purdy on the brain here, Ned. The way Brock Purdy's playing for the Niners these days, we're feeling Brock Purdy.
So Ned, obviously when we were doing a Warriors live stream when the news came down, and then obviously we were all just super excited right away. Like, yes, the Giants are somewhat interesting, but what is it about this? Because after a little bit of digesting time, you kind of look at his stats, and I kind of felt like they were maybe a little better than they were when I really looked at him. Like, he's kind of like a 280, 20 home run kind of guy, 1 Gold Glove in 8 years, but like a good defender, couple-time All-Star. Like, what is it about this deal that you said the word desperate? And obviously, we're all giving him the benefit of the doubt, but like, what is it about this deal that kind of gets your GM spidey senses tingling about like the desperation?
Well, I don't know if I said that they are desperate. I said some people may think it in that vein. I think, and there's no deal that all of us understand completely. And, there is value in doing this for a few reasons, including it makes the team better. But it also livens up the fan base. It gives people some hope. It's a pretty good building block for your continued success and your continued quest to run the West. All of that said, and I think that when you sign anybody for the duration that this contract is, you're not expecting 13 years of production. It's almost impossible. So some of it is to help promote the franchise. Some of it is to maybe draw other people here, whether it's this year or next year or the year after. There's a lot of different reasons to it. And like when we signed Yasiel Puig, we probably overpaid him for where he was at in his career, but we hadn't been in Latin America for probably 6 or 7 years. So that was part of why we did what we did. I'm sure if you knew everything the Giants were thinking, it's probably a lot more than, we need him to play the left side of the infield for the next 13 seasons. It's probably got a lot more to it than just meets the eye as, okay, we've signed a shortstop, a good player, good defender, middle of the order bat, all those things. So, it's, again, I think had they not signed him and if Ross was their last signing, I don't think people are going to be very happy with that. I don't live up there, but I read a lot. I sense a lot. I got a lot of friends up there. So, I think it's got a lot of value to it besides just what you're going to see on the field from him. But again, the 13 and the 350, I can't tell you. I had those two numbers written down as I think this, even in this market, is what this is going to be.
Ned, you put together and Brian put together a lot of good Giant teams. I can remember talking to you a couple of years, and you're like, "Hey, man, we can't win 79 games. We've got to be competitive." And you guys went year to year, and really throughout the 90s, you guys were pretty consistent. But the Giant ownership group, and their attendance was down dramatically this year by 200,000. It's down by 800,000 if you go back to a few more years before the pandemic. They've lost a lot of their season ticket base because of whatever. I mean, they've had some competitive years, they've had some lean years. They've obviously won the 3 titles. But how would you term this Giant ownership group? Is it surprising? Like, what's more of a concern to them, do you think? That their attendance is down and they don't have that star attraction to put people in the stands? Or do you really think that the most important thing isn't that, but just building a contending team and not worrying about having a star or a headliner? How did you and Brian because you had Bonds, but you also saw them win 3 titles after Bonds. Where do you put the star versus being competitive, and how does the Giant ownership group that well, I'm sure, what do they prefer?
Well, I can't speak for any ownership group. I think everybody that gets involved in this profession, and I mean the professional sports profession, I think the thing that sells tickets, the thing that moves the needle is winning. I think if any team that signed anybody for 10 years or more for $300 million or more, if they're losing 90, 95 games, you're getting to September, every foul ball into the seats is going to be hitting a seat, not a person.
Right.
Nobody's going. Okay? You've got to win. You have got to win. And yeah, the drawing card is good. The drawing card is good in the off season, maybe good in a marketing deal or two, or good for, your ticket base. But if you don't win, I'm sorry, it don't mean nothing. On the other hand, if you win, you will have people that become those types of players, those stars, those fan favorites, those drawing cards. That's how it goes. They may not be those types of players at this moment, but they start winning 90 games, they start competing, they start playing games in September that mean something, you'll fill the ballpark. And those players become the drawing card, so to speak. Nothing draws like winning, especially in the West Coast. I mean, there's so many options where you spend your time and your money. People don't go to Boo; they go someplace else. It's not Boston, New York, or Philly where they'll pay, tell you how bad you are. There's going up here.
Right. They don't get angry here. They just go do something else and go walk their dog in the Marin Headlands. Mark, you got one more for Ned? We'll probably go give Ned a couple more, and then we'll let Ned get on with his night. You got another one?
Yeah, Ned, I wonder where you see this going. Here's something that I see with all of these contracts, because I think individually you could make the case that all of them are a quote unquote overpay. I don't even necessarily know what that means. As you said earlier, it's the going rate. But this to me feels like players flexing their power when they're in a good spot, saying, you're going to pay me till I'm 40 because you didn't pay me when I was in my 20s. It looks to me like this is the response to the arbitration system that is disallowing players, in some cases who are already elite, from making what they are really worth on the open market. And so now, as the player feels like they're kind of getting the short end in their 20s, teams are going to feel like they're getting the short end, having to pay these guys till they're 40 or 41 years old. Where do you see that going, and what's the fix if there is one?
Well, they've kind of adjusted the arbitration thing a little bit with the $50 million bonus pool, which I think is really a great step for the players. They just announced that the other day, and Dylan Cease, I think, got $2.5 million, somewhere around there, as a pre-arbitration bonus. So they've addressed it a little bit. I think that it shows you, from a financial standpoint, how flush the industry is, and mainly because of I think, media revenue, whether it's streaming, whether it's network, that people can do this. But also something else that I just find kind of interesting. Almost all of these long-term deals, when you think of who the leadership is doing it, do you see them having to live with the second half of these contracts?
Probably not. Yeah.
If they don't win a World Series or two, it's somebody else's issue.
Right.
That's exactly what I was actually thinking, but I didn't want to ask you that question.
But it's also, as you even said,
It's interesting.
but it's an ownership thing, right? So if it's an ownership thing, then they are going to have to live with it.
Well, yes and no. I don't know the last baseball team that went down in value.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Scott. I'm sure Scott brought that up. I would hear that from him every winter. This may be more than you expected to spend, but your team is appreciating at this kind of rate. Just look at I came there a year or two after the ownership change. Mr. Lurie sold the club. Peter as the managing general partner, and that group. They paid what, $115 million for it. Where's it at now?
Billions.
$3.5 billion.
4, 5, 6 billion.
Yeah. So
fifth richest team in baseball.
It's a lot to it.
I got one more for you. When there was talk that when Judge came to San Francisco and stayed at a hotel, that the Giants preferred that he come in kind of the back door, and he said, "I'm going through the front door." And that the news. Everybody knew the Giants were pursuing him, but I'm just always wondering. I know Sabes played his cards close to the vest. I know you played your cards close to the vest. I can't remember you two guys getting the Giant fan base titillated about some move that eventually never came down. You were very stealth in your operations. Was that all by design? And how do you maintain that stealth? Do you sit there with the agent and say, "Hey, look, we're in this to the finish, but here are the ground rules. Don't use us and bandy us about, or we're out." Were you that strong and forthright with these agents up front? Because how did you get them not to include you guys in the rumor mill and get kind of led around by the nose like so many GMs do?
Well, it depends on your perspective of it. We were close to the vest, and I was close to the vest when I left San Francisco. I had a 3-month negotiation with Prince Fielder, and I told Scott, I said, if this gets out, you can lose my phone number, because I can't. We were going through an ownership change, selling of the team. The McCourts were okay with me going after Prince to a certain degree, but it wasn't going to do them any good to have it public. But I think when I saw the Aaron Judge thing, I thought about the agent is what I thought about. I thought when I saw him at the airport and the media, I think one television reporter was there. I'm not sure what the facts are to it all, but I thought about the agent. Why wouldn't, if you're the agent, you're telling somebody he's coming to town.
Right.
Telling somebody they can meet him at SFO or wherever he flew into, and here's the deal. And he'll be ready to say hello to you. Because what does that do? What does that do to the Yankees? It makes them go, uh-oh. We don't know if this is true or false, but we know he's there. Okay? You never know. So it's the agent's job to create that. No matter what the team wants, it's the agent's job to create that. But, you to make any type of stand like me telling, Scott, hey, I can't let this out. And he, to his credit, he didn't. I mean, I met with me and two of my top guys. We went to Dallas and sat with Scott and Mike Fiore and Prince, for about 6 hours one day. Nobody knew we did it. Nobody knew we did it. And, that's just the way we laid it out. And there was that type of respect on both sides that, hey, they don't want it out. And I've also told agents in the past, guys I did a lot of business with, look, if you want to use me or my team and say, we have an interest and it's going to affect somebody's payroll that I'm competing against, have at it. I do a deal with you. I need you to lock it down. And I had that type of relationship probably with, 7 or 8 agencies. I said, hey, you need to use me. I'm working for a big market team. I mean, the Dodgers were at that time were, still, next to the Yankees or adjacent to the Yankees, the biggest franchises in the sport. Who wouldn't want the Dodgers interested? Even in the Giants' heyday, not the heyday that I missed, but the heyday leading up to it. A lot of people wanted to be there. Hey, the Giants are involved. These guys are serious. Hey, you want to use it? Go ahead and use it. But hey, when we come to call on another player, better lock that down. You better lock it down. And that's what we did sometimes. There were sometimes that we let it happen. We let teams say, hey, we let agents say, yeah, I've been talking to this team, and that would raise the ante. And sometimes it was, we thought it would be okay for us because we were competing and we were going to let them spend an extra $10 million on somebody that maybe would stop them from doing something else.
That's probably what Farhan did, actually, now that I think about it.
Ned, one on the Padres. I'm shocked by the way they're throwing money around. They made a huge bid for Trey Turner. Supposedly they made the biggest bid for Aaron Judge. Do you got a thought on the Padres before we let you go? Maybe the other guys have one more question for you, but my last one is just on what is your take on the way San Diego is going about doing business? It seems like they're in on all the biggest names and they're hyper aggressive.
I think it's really interesting because I had the same thought. Where are they getting them? And then somebody told me, I don't know if it's fact or fiction. Somebody told me that they had maybe the third highest attendance in the league, maybe in the game. They've maxed out on season tickets at 33,000 full season tickets. So, they are in it. Their fan base is energized. The place is alive. It's a great place to live, obviously, and play and they got the same tax everybody else in the state's got. But I find it very interesting, and I find it interesting in kind of a good way because I think it draws great competition, especially when you got the Dodgers, a couple hours up the road, and I think it's good for the West. I think it's good for the rivalries, and I give AJ a lot of credit. Nobody will ever say he's afraid. He's afraid of nothing.
That's right. That's right.
Did anybody else get Mark, Danny, Rye? You got one last one for Ned on the way out? We've taken about 40 minutes of Ned's time, or I was going to let him get on with his night unless somebody's got one last one for you.
Well, I got one for you, Ned, and I can hear I can hear it I heard in your voice the competitiveness that you have, and you're talking about AJ Preller. I was down at the winter meetings.
I'm actually fired up by the way Ned's talking. He's getting me fired up.
I was down in San Diego last week at the winter meetings, and I was listening to some of the GMs and listening to them talk. And, it seems to me that some of the GMs out there, they know what they want and they go get it. They don't wait. Like Dave Dombrowski, he went out, he wanted Trey Turner. Boom. He went out, made the offer.
And in our fantasy league. Yeah.
AJ Preller, he's in on all these deals. They're not waiting to seem like they're kind of measuring the market. As a GM, if you want somebody that bad, for example, I was a little upset.
Get to the question.
They lost out on Bellinger because to me, they wanted Bellinger really bad. And yet they could have just probably given him $2 to $4 million more than the Cubs gave him and had him. Now it looks like they're going to have to go trade assets to get a center fielder. When you're wanting a guy, don't you just have to sometimes just go get him and pay a little bit more than what maybe the market says his value is?
It's a long answer. I'll cut it down. I had probably 10 or 11 things that I needed to know before I'd ever get on the phone with an agent. The last person I would talk to would be the owner. And if I had 11, by the time I got to 9, 10 was, I'm going to figure out what my choke point is, what I refuse to do, whether it's term, whether it's years, AAV, whatever it is. I'll get to a point, I'm out. Okay. I needed to know what that was, knowing it's going to probably be a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. I've got to set that down before I get on the phone. And I also did enough research and preparation and took in as much info as I possibly could to make a decision before I would go to ownership, because I never wanted the owner to say, well, what about this? And have me say, I don't know. Let me get back to you. That was a failure on my part. So we didn't always make the right deals and stuff like that. But I think Brian was the same way. We worked together on this, and then I carried it on when I went to the Dodgers for a decade. It was, I knew who I wanted, and the agents knew. I scouted agents scouted us. They knew how we were, and they knew if I had an interest, it was sincere. And I'd tell them, where we at? Where you at? What are you thinking? And if they mentioned a player as a comparable that was way out, and I'd say, I don't see it like that. Are you serious about that? Because if you are, I'm moving on. And they knew it was fact. And so all these relationships and all these things that you go through year after year after year, and it's not just making a deal that gives you that experience, it's just conversation. Whether you make a deal or not, you learn about your competition, and you learn about those who you do business with. And we would be quick, because the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost. The player has this, and they don't have this in the off season. The player has the same gamble that the GM has, who has a team that is not going to make it, that's going to trade off some big players to get some young assets. The only fear that they have, the only downside they have, is injury. Okay? If a player stays healthy, the market's not going away. It's going to get better as you get closer, unless somebody gets hurt. Players, it's the same way. It's going to get more expensive the longer you wait, because the chairs are leaving. Dansby Swanson tonight made a lot of money.
Yeah, he did.
There's only one guy left, him. He made a lot of money. So that's how it goes. The longer you wait, the more you're going to play, because the worst time to negotiate is when you have to. Even buying a car, anything. If you're driving down 101, through Millbrae, and your car breaks down on the 101, and the mechanic says, I can't fix it, you got to go to a car dealer. You got to buy a car. Or the thing is starting to get old, and you got some time to shop. But the worst time to do it is when there's nobody left, or when guys are falling off the board. We got in, we got out. And the agents knew that if they gave me a number, or just even they didn't say, well, I need 100 over 5. They'd say, I think my player should be paid like this player. And I knew what that player made. Or if he did say, I need at least 5 years, and the AAV's got to be over 20. And I'd say, how far over 20? There's a lot of numbers over 20.
Right.
How far over 20? 20 and a half? 20 and $1? How far over 20 we talking? And if it was outlandish, if it was something I wasn't comfortable with, because I knew going in what my comfort level was, and I was willing to go a tick above, not necessarily a year above, but probably a tick above money-wise, okay, we can keep talking. If it was outlandish, I'd say, I'm done. I'm going on. I'm moving on. Thanks for the time. You changed your mind. I haven't done anything. You call me back, but I'm done talking to you. I'm not calling you back.
I
So
love it. I love
Ned,
it.
great stuff. Hey, we'll let you get on with your night. Thanks for jumping on with us, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon. Hopefully, here in the next few days, we'll get you back on. We'll do another baseball deal after more deals are signed. But you're always a wealth of information to talk to on these things, and I know I appreciate it. I know the fellows do as well, and everybody in the chat. So thanks for jumping on, Ned. Have a great night, and thanks for doing it.
my pleasure, guys. All the best. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Thank
Take
Great
care,
Ned
Ned.
Colletti in the house. Good stuff.
Hmm.
Mark, your reaction to Ned. I mean, he's so real and on so many fronts. He really
Yeah.
paints a picture, and it just kind of shows that there are so many factors, some that we think about, many that never even dawn on us, that go into the mind of a Major League Baseball executive when he's putting these deals together.
Well, I just look at the way this thing got played out, and I think if I have to be sort of impressed by something with the Giants, it was that they had the stomach and the mettle to do this the way that they did it. Because now that we're on sort of the back end, I think there's still tweaks coming, but now that we're sort of on the back end of what the what the framework of this offseason is. I think that they knew that Aaron Judge was a long shot the whole time. And I think that they knew that they were getting torched in the public the whole time. I think that they knew that they had to do something. And as Ned said, they were getting damn close, if not to the spot where they were negotiating from a place of desperation. But through all of that, as I wrote this morning on Twitter, I'm like, they can still save this. They can still save this. It's not over yet.
And what did the rest of your tweet say? It's like, you can save this by doing, and you threw out a couple things, right? Didn't you?
It's been a really uncomfortable offseason, but you can still save this. You've got to sign Correa. You've got to go get a defensive outfielder. And they probably need a little bullpen piece here or there. The rotation needed more. And then, here comes Ross Stripling, and then here comes Carlos Correa. And I think they've saved it. And at their heart of hearts, I don't know about ownership. Ownership wants butts in seats. But I wonder what you guys think about this. I think if you injected truth serum into Farhan Zaidi 2 months ago and said, would you rather have Aaron Judge or Carlos Correa? He would tell you Carlos Correa. I fully believe that, because if you think about what they said they wanted to do, they said they were uber prioritizing athleticism up the middle.
Yep.
And you've got a 28-year-old player as opposed to a player who's about to turn 31. And, the AAV, I know that the number looks as 360, it's 350, but the AAV is $13 million less. And we don't even have the details. I don't know if this is going to be front loaded or what have you. They hung in there through everybody screaming. And I think they've kind of got the offseason they want and expected. I really do.
What do you think, Mark? Do you think
interesting.
they're still in on Rodon, or do you think that's done?
I don't think I think that sometimes a team will continue to push out in the public that they're in on a guy, kind of almost out of respect for the guy. I don't think, you heard Ned say it. This is real interesting. Here's another thing. The idea of going 5, 6, 7 years with a starter is probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like, emotionally, we all just want Carlos Rodon on the team. But if this team has earned any faith, it is in this exactly what they're doing, which is build a starting pitcher up. And as soon as he's ready to go get a big multi-year deal, they're going to go replace him with someone else. And they pitch every year. And I think they'll pitch again this year. The fair question is, with their current staff, if they get to the playoffs, how do you have you've got a number one, you've got Logan Webb. What are you doing after that? But you let that take care of itself. By the end of the year, Kyle Harrison might be the answer to that. So I have total faith in them regenerating the starting staff every year. What I didn't
Yeah.
have faith in is their lineup. And that's what they had to go address. And when you get Correa in the lineup, doesn't the Haniger thing look better now too? Like,
Sure.
There's a middle of the order now that's not a laughing stock.
Who's the center fielder, you think?
Yeah, that's that. I still wonder, because I still think that they're I know Pabs tonight said that the heavy lifting is done and they do want to tweak the bullpen a little bit. But I also remember Gabe Kapler saying at the winter meetings, like, this is not a want, this is a need. Our defense in the outfield up the middle has got to change and got to be better. I mean, right now it's Yaz. He's not a bad defensive outfielder, but he's also not an everyday player. Unless you think that he is. I know his splits would suggest it's okay. He hasn't been. He's either the same against righties and lefties, or he's not great against either. I don't know, but I'd still love to see one more outfield option out there instead of, because think about, an injury here or there. And, I don't think they see Jock Peterson as an outfielder. So
no, he's a DH. I sense a trade coming because
I mean,
they have 42 guys on the roster right now when you add Minaya and Correa. So they've got guys that are on the roster, Luciano and Matos, that really can't help them.
But they got all kinds of guys they can maneuver.
Oh, they can move anybody, but I think
Miguel
they can move
Jujuri or whatever. They got all kinds of nobody.
I think they're looking at maybe a starting pitcher and maybe another person that might be able to bring you a Mullen.
I like this move
or something.
I like the move for Correa because I think this is more important than Judge from the standpoint of Judge was going to put butts in the seats. I think Correa is more of a fit baseball wise, but the real reason I love it is I think they're ready to move Marco Luciano in a trade for a significant piece, but they wouldn't make that move until they got a guy like Correa. Now Correa is your guy for the next decade plus.
But Luciano could be an outfielder.
He could be, but he's a hitter. But I think he's a piece you could move if you had to attract.
I'm not saying you're wrong. There absolutely could be a trade. I will tell you that I was told 6 months ago that Luciano is not projecting at shortstop anymore.
Oh no, I know he might not even be. I've been told not third base anymore.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a left fielder. I really do. And
that takes the value down.
Yeah, it does. But at the same time, even with this move, don't forget that at the core of what the Giants believe, and quite frankly, all the good baseball teams believe, you can't be all free agents. There needs to be a homegrown core that's a part of this. And so they're still going to be of that belief system. And so, I don't know who those people are. You're going to trade some prospects. I think the Padres came up with a homegrown feel, and then they ended up dealing a whole lot of those guys. Something like that could happen. But I don't think they're necessarily off the Luciano train yet. But yeah, it's an option. Listen, if you want to send this fan base into a frenzy, if you really want to do it now, you find a package and send it to Pittsburgh for Brian Reynolds. Now,
I love Brian Reynolds. Yeah.
Now you're loaded for bear.
They want a ton, though, according to the reports.
And you've got a lineup that scares people.
Yeah.
Got an unbelievable defense up the middle of your field.
He's a switch hitter.
That's the one to me. I don't know if they can pull it off. Apparently, the Pirates are asking for the world.
Right.
If they did that, you take an offseason that right now for me sits kind of in the, A- B+ neighborhood, turns it into an A+.
What kind of reaction did you get on the show to your commentary about Farhan and the whole Slusser piece and his comments about, the Bay Area and maybe the Bay Area is a double-edged sword? And because to me, I thought this was a note, there are right-wing news channels, there are left-wing news channels. The right-wing news channels have taken San Francisco out back and used it because of Gavin Newsom potentially running for president as we're going to, just a nightly basis, we're going to rip into San Francisco and we're going to drop it all on the feet of Newsom. And it's all for, political purposes. And I'm not saying that it doesn't go both ways, because it does go both ways, but I'm just kind of wondering if the wives of some of these ball players that come out of the Midwest and the South who have a lot of money and they're thinking about where do I want to live, and they're watching all these shows about needles and feces and drugs and news, and just sit there, and after a while it's like, have they come here? No. Have they ever been here? No. But they've heard enough bad things where it's like, if they get a vote, they don't want to go there. Do you think that has any impact on this situation or no?
I'm sure for some individuals, yeah, like Farhan wouldn't say it if they hadn't experienced it. So but at the same time, I think that's true about any destination in America. You know, like there are guys who don't want to play under the bright lights of New York. There are guys who are addicted to it. Trey Turner left Los Angeles. He left the freaking Dodgers to go to Philadelphia and probably get booed. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
everybody is wired in a different way. So I take Farhan at face value, but the reaction from me, and I think from a lot of people, was, I mean, I thought for a lot of people, I heard the word cop out. I heard the phrase cop out all the time, which was that it was like, oh, he's making an excuse for why he can't close. And as you guys know, closing these deals is a lot bigger than one president of baseball operations. So it's not just about him. I'm sure they've experienced this, but I hated the comment going public because I just think it sort of turned the guns on the fans and the city as opposed to themselves, number one. And number two, I hated the timing. It's like, why would you say that right as you're heading into the winter meetings? You're supposed to be selling your city, not putting it out in the public that a lot of people don't like it. So I hated all of that, but I also said it on the show today. There's one way to make this just totally, this quote goes away if we come back tomorrow and Carlos Correa is on the team.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, that's exactly what happened.
That's exactly the way it shook out.
So here we are.
Yeah, exactly. Exciting times if you're a Giant fan, though, because I'm okay. I'm okay if they don't go with Rodon. I'm okay. If you said to me, you could have starting pitching to get you through 162, or starting pitching that once you get through 162 can help you get through the playoff tournament, I would rather have the starting pitching that gets me through 162 and take my chances in October than get like two just monster like the Mets did. 45 for Scherzer, 45 for Verlander. When they get to October, man, they've got big name number one starters. I'd rather have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 even viable starters and know on opening day that I can get through 162 with a major league caliber arm every day, and then figure out who's the hot arm come late September and go with those guys in October, as opposed to paying top tier heavy freight for a true ace. And then also my rotation 6 deep. And I only, if one guy goes down, I'm looking at minor leaguers. I just like depth over star power when it comes to starting pitching. But where are you on starters? Because I can be swayed either way on this, because I think there's arguments to be made in both directions.
I think that you always love premium starters. Who wouldn't? But I think you're right. I mean, look, the Astros played the Phillies in the World Series, and outside of Verlander and for baseball fans, Zach Wheeler, most people couldn't even name another starter on either of those teams. And they beat out all the teams who did have all the elite starters, you know, like the Mets and the Dodgers. Like, they just throw these elite starters at you, and it doesn't always work. I mean,
they also absolutely mashed.
Yeah, of course. And there's a lot of context to that, the ballparks in which they play, the style that they play. One thing that has never been a problem since Oracle Park opened is the Giants pitching. It's just never been a problem. And sometimes they've had elite starters and sometimes they've not, but they have always pitched. And you go to the most famous game in the history of the Giants organization, you know, and forget that while Mad Bum came in and pitched the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th in Kansas City, the starting pitcher in that game 7 didn't get out of the second inning. So
right.
like it does need to be piecemeal together. And I guess the hope would be is that by the end of the year, a Mania or a Stripling, maybe DeSclafani refines it, maybe Harrison is the real deal. One of these question marks is pitching like a game 2 or a game 3 starter. And they've got the history of that. You know, we sit here and go, they let Kevin Gausman go. Y'all hadn't even heard of him when they signed him. And then he turned into a number 1 starter.
Right.
So, again, I'm with you on that one, Larry, because I have total faith in this organization, in this ballpark, to get starting pitching results.
Right.
That
Hell
has
unearth
been the
some-
strength of Farhan. The strength of Farhan has
Totally.
been building pitching and depth.
His best move might be Gausman and Rodon.
Oh,
Really?
it has been. Those were two aces, and they're number 1 guys now, and Rodon's going to get paid.
And by the way, isn't part of the great thing that he did with both of those guys is get maximum production and keep the flexibility. I'll remind everybody that when the Giants do go to the 5+ year deal for a star starting pitcher, it's never worked. Okay.
Right. And it hasn't worked with Cueto or
Samardzija, Barry Zito,
Yeah.
on and on and on. Whenever they've done that, it hasn't worked. And if you're a betting man, whoever gets Rodon is probably going to feel the same way in 4 years.
No, what I don't have a problem with them doing is exactly what you said, Mark, is finding that pitcher every year, that 1 or 2 guys, until you get Harrison up and going, until Bednar's up and going, and Reggie Crawford and Jelly and maybe some of these other guys. If you can get 3 guys from your system that are in your 5-man rotation, you're pretty set.
And you got July. If you're in first or second place in July, and you're like, you know what we need? We need a game 2 starter.
Yeah.
Go trade for one.
Right.
Go get one. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm with you. Like I think that it makes sense to keep the flexibility with pitching. They've done it very, very well.
Hey, Wade Miley's another guy that's still out there that could fit into this.
It sounds like the equivalent of like being, and honestly, I've done it before, and sometimes it's awesome. But like playing fantasy football and just being like, I'm just not going to draft a running back because they always get hurt, even though it's the most like premium position. Yeah. And you're like, I'm just going to draft AJ Dillon and a bunch of backups and hope that somebody gets injured.
Well,
sometimes it works out.
Here's another point, which I don't even necessarily back it, but I'm trying to go into the mind of the Giants. How much are you going to pay at a premium for a position that you usually don't even use past the 5th inning? I mean, if they're going to go with their philosophy, and their philosophy is very much like you said, Larry, like it's groupthink. Like we want the right pitcher at the right time and the right leverage moment throughout each of these games. And, I don't know. Do you break the bank for someone who is rarely in leverage situations with this team? Because they're lucky if they get to the 6th inning.
Hey, Mark, we'll let you go, but I got one more for you about Crawford. Crawford is one of the proudest guys in the clubhouse. He has played an incredible shortstop through the years. What do you think is going through his head right now? Do you think he's the Giant third baseman with JD Davis? Is he their second baseman with Tyro? Do you think that Crawford is somehow damaged by this and says, hey man, all things being equal, if you can find me a shortstop job, I would like to go elsewhere? Do you think he's totally comfortable? I ran into some Giants people who felt like he didn't necessarily need to be replaced, but they needed to give him more of a rest, and that he could have stayed at shortstop if they had just had somebody who could play a few more times a week. But ultimately now this is not that situation. Correa is going to be the everyday guy at short, and justifiably so. But what does this do to Craw?
My hope is that the Giants were very, very upfront with him at the very beginning of this process and letting him know that this might happen, because unfortunately, with where the organization is, they realized they did not have the time or the space to overly consider Brandon Crawford's feelings. They just didn't have that luxury. It would have been nice if he could have had his final year and all of that. But so that's where I would hope this started. I do hear more about Crawford at third than I do Correa at third. But I also, I wonder, we have not heard directly about his willingness to do it. Look, he hits left-handed. So he gives them a really interesting piece now if he can move around in the infield, because he's the only one who can do that from the left side of the batter's box. So he becomes an unbelievable Swiss Army knife if he can do that. He's going to have to be willing to do it. I don't even know if he can. So they needed more depth at shortstop if there's an injury and all of that. But look, it's an uncomfortable question that doesn't have a perfect answer yet. If this is his final year, then it might be a little bit of a weird one. But I also think if he does it and he accepts it and he does it well, then he's going to be even more beloved by this fan base on the way out.
I personally think he's, with the shift being eliminated, that he would be much better off at second, because he knows how to go into the hole both ways, or up the middle. It's just different side. You need that range, so much range, and he still has the range. And if he goes over to second and plays a good second base, it could actually extend his career to other places.
From the second Correa became a name, and this is 4 months ago, I thought, gosh, an Estrada Crawford platoon,
yes.
or that's pretty attractive, actually, at least defensively. Because you're right, with the shift gone, I don't think Wilmer Flores can go over there anymore.
No, we know LaStella can't.
You can't do that. Well, I don't think LaStella is going to be.
I don't think he is either.
You think they'll trade LaStella? Or DFA him?
Yeah, I know that's a big amount of money to bite, but if you're handing somebody $350 million, what's a few more? But Tommy LaStella does not have the bat to be a DH, and he doesn't have the legs to play in the field. So,
how about Brandon Belt, Willard? Do you think Belt retires and rides off into the sunset? You think he plays elsewhere? Because it seems like they could bring him back. There's not a robust free agent first base market, that's for sure.
Well, they can now because of the other things that they've done. Like, that would have really ticked people off if they had done that before this. But now it depends, I think, on the other offers that he may or may not have. If he doesn't have any other offers, and I'm the Giants, why wouldn't you love? Because right now your only left-handed hitting first base option is Lamont Wade. I don't know if he can hit. I don't love his glove over there either. I've always loved it. We love Belt's glove.
Yeah.
If you can say to Brandon, hey, can you give us 80 games and be an option with Flores and JD Davis over at first, why wouldn't you want that?
Oh, yeah. And you put him in the lineup with Correa, Haniger, Belt, Peterson. I mean, that's not a bad foursome there for, with the shift being gone, Belt will get a lot more hits. I mean, they were playing, Matty Machado was playing basically right field, deep right field against them.
I'll say this, I know we hear Longoria's name in terms of teams he's talking to. Has anybody heard Brandon Belt even mentioned with anyone?
No, I've actually heard people kind of
not a word
talking about him retiring.
Yeah. I wonder.
Mark, I've got one more. I know you go right after this, but
all good.
Okay. This is just I'm trying to when it's you talk so much sports, it's you're almost not sure where your fan brain is. And right now I'm should I, because I am really excited about Correa, but it's do I have low sports fan self-esteem right now? So I'm like, oh, Correa, okay, we signed somebody. So finally somebody was willing to sign with us, 280, 22 home runs, like probably not going to be that much better next year. And the Dodgers and Padres both got way better, and they keep signing all these awesome superstars. So it's like, finally, at least we get something, and this team will be somewhat watchable next year. So I'm feeling like they're really maybe they're improved 5 games. But
no, I think that this is already it's already a better team than it was last year, at least defensively behind the pitching staff, and the lineup is better too. I think the rotation is obviously taking a little bit of a hit, at least on paper. But I think what you're experiencing is just actually being a sports fan. It's kind of how, like, no matter who you root for, you think the refs are always against you. You always think Joe Buck is against you. It doesn't matter who you root for. You sort of have those self-esteem issues. But like I even heard you just say, the Dodgers got better. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
Like one of the low-key things of this offseason that's been great, of all the high-profile teams, the worst offseason now is 1,000% the Dodgers.
Yep.
They brought Kershaw.
Bellinger.
They lost Trey. Right. I mean, Bellinger, you can make the case whether that's good or bad, but there's certainly a presence there that has been lost. And
probably Justin Turner too. Yeah,
they've done nothing to replace it. And I think from what I hear, it has something to do with their fear about where this Bauer hearing is going to go.
Really?
The money that they may owe there. And so, look, the gap between the Giants and Dodgers got smaller this offseason for sure. Yes, a betting person would still have the Giants as the third place club, but I think the makings are now on this roster for it to be a good team, kind of if things go their way. We saw one year where everything went their way, they get 107. Then the lot didn't go their way, they get 81. I would definitely predict that the number of wins this year would be in between those two numbers.
If I tune in tomorrow to 95.7 The Game at 9 a.m., am I going to hear Carlos Correa talk, Brock Purdy talk, or, the story that I'm stumbling on now, a fan in Milwaukee said life-threatening things to Draymond Green in the third quarter?
The Draymond Green.
What's going to be the big story outside of Correa?
I'll bring you behind the curtain, and everybody who's listening as well. You can know this. We would normally never share something like this publicly. Tomorrow is going to be almost across the board. It'll be Carlos Correa. That's what I'm seeing and feeling based on social media and talking to people right now. We had a guest list tomorrow. We had Softy Mahler, who is just a screamer from Seattle.
Awesome. Yep.
To get us ready for Seahawks 49ers. And the great Herm Edwards was booked on the show as well. I canceled them both and replaced them with Rich Aurelia. That's what we're doing tomorrow.
Nice.
That's what we're doing tomorrow.
And we couldn't let you out the door without giving us your Purdy take, because I didn't hear it this week. Are we putting the cart before the horse and we're making too much of Purdy's hot start, or 2 games in, do you believe that this guy is legit?
First of all, I got to start by saying, dude, you got one. You nailed it, because
thank you.
Because you've been saying all along, this guy can really play. And sure, I don't want to really talk about the Super Bowl yet. And I certainly don't want to talk about who the starter is next year and all that. But I will say this, normally rookies come in. We did it with the 5 rookie QBs last year. Rookies come in and they look wobbly and they look weird. And we're always like, got to give them time. You got to give them time. And they got to be in the right spot. And that's a big part of this. Brock's got a great coach and a great defense and great weapons around him. So he has sold under a lucky star as well. But how can you ignore some of the things that are obvious? I don't know if he's going to be a great starting NFL quarterback yet. I can't say that after 7 quarters, but there are a few things that we can say, which is this guy is top shelf in terms of ad-libbing. He is top shelf in terms of not freaking out when the pressure is on and is in his face and the red light is on. And I mean, you take on Tom Brady and the game's over at halftime. Like, there are a few things that you can already say green check mark next to them, and they're very, very encouraging. So if he continues to look like this, he's a savior, because he has potentially saved this season, and he also saves the 49er organization from getting into what was going to be an emotional and financially dangerous place next March, when they try to figure out who was going to be their QB1 and then who was going to be their fallback option. So if he plays like this, you can just comfortably say, Trey, get healthy, and then open competition next summer to see what happens with these two guys.
Wild stuff. Mark, hey man, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah.
We sometimes we set these things up. The last couple times we've had you on have been kind of like these impromptu big shits happening, and we're like, hey, maybe Willard's up, and we'll throw you a text with a link in it. So I just wanted to say, my man, always love you and Dibs. Listen to your guys' show. You guys got a great thing going. We'll listen tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for you guys' breakdown. But thanks for hopping on in the late night deal with me and Danny and Ryan, and giving us your perspective. It's really cool that we have this kind of like nighttime forum that we can just like pop on and get everybody's perspective. Boom, we're connected with Ned, and we're connected with you, and all kinds of different perspectives. And I got people on my phone, dude, is blowing up with people going, dude, you got Willard, this is awesome. You got Ned, this is incredible. And it's very cool.
Drill. And how many fire drills have we had in the Bay Area this year? Like, the Warriors have won a championship, but think about it, right? Draymond punching Jordan Poole, like Christian McCaffrey gets acquired. Where were you when the Niners restructured Garoppolo? Like all of these things that have happened just in the last few months. It's insane, and it's great for Sports Talk Radio, but it's a whole lot of fun, and I'm glad the Giants.
Yeah, Mark, we were actually
the realm of having some name value too.
We were actually on the show. We created this new live stream for the Correa, but I was wearing a blue shirt, and
we walked away from a live stream with 300 people to walk into a live stream with like 750 people.
Yeah, we got up to 750.
Rolled the deep, honestly.
Yeah.
You were talking Warriors.
Yeah, we were talking Warriors.
We were doing kind of a potpourri of Warriors, a little bit of Giants in the chat, 49ers, and all of a sudden Rye's like, no way, wait, breaking news.
Twitter. You will forever go down, and these are the things we remember. I remember who texted me first when Durant signed. You were the text. You were the first text for me, because what was it? It was a little bit before 9 o'clock.
You didn't see the Carlos Correa until I texted?
My man, that hour of the night, the 8-year-old is getting out of the bath. My 15-year-old had taken my laptop and he's having finals week.
Yeah.
His daughter's in her room doing homework. And so it was it's the quiet hour.
Yeah.
And your text came, like, I looked at my phone real quick and I see what you wrote, like, get on here, and it sent a chain reaction around the house.
Like, your guys are all Giants fans, right? Yeah.
And it hasn't stopped yet. Like, I'm like, okay, you go to bed. You keep doing your best. I'm going to go. I got to do videos and send tweets and everything. So, yeah, man, you're on fire. You called Brock Purdy and you broke Correa to me.
Wow. Well, hey, man, you're a great dad, man. It was really, we got a chance to sit at the Warrior game when our families got to be together and stuff. Dude, you're a great dad. Keep it up, and we'll be listening for you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with Dibs, talking a lot with Rich Aurelia, breaking all this down. Everybody needs to listen to Mark Willard and Dan Dibley tomorrow morning, 9 to noon on 95.7 The Game, the Bay Area's best sports radio station. All right. You like how I squeezed that in there at the end?
Well done.
Tell Nahagian. See you, Mark.
But thanks, guys. It's fun. It's fun to get some stuff from Ned Colletti. You guys kind of helped me shape the thoughts for tomorrow morning. So
thanks
for man. Have a great night. We'll talk to you.
All right.
Mark Willard. Fantastic.
Awesome. I really wanted to ask him at the end, like, okay, Were you a little bummed that you just immediately got bumped by Colletti? Like,
well, and then Mark, I was really excited to have Mark on, but then we got Ned. Ned's a former GM, and we gotta spend all of our time and energy asking Ned questions.
Oh,
and then
Ned's just awesome. See, that's what
Ned is so good. And
what I
we
love
could do
about
so much.
Ned is his passion and his I don't want to use
the way
the
he
word
thinks
aggressive.
so clearly on negotiations.
I don't want to use the word aggressive, but just focused.
Yeah.
And it's what I've been saying that I feel like, I think the Giants could have had Rodon last August or September for maybe 4 more years added, and because he was signed for 23. So you could have just said, hey, look, we'll keep 23 and we'll just add 4 more years to it for a little bit higher. And you probably could have had him, 4 more years at $25 million a year. And he probably would have taken it because he was getting 22. And Gosman only got 22 and a half. But Ned explained it perfectly. He says, the longer you wait, the more you lose out on. The deals go up. And
he talks like he just naturally talks off the cuff, like some character written by somebody to just sound super dope. Like maybe that was in like The Sopranos.
That's the Italian in him, man. The Italian, he's just like I love Ned. It's just
like Billions or Wall Street or something. I don't know.
I mean,
man, this has been an epic live stream. So let's do this. Let me see. Let's see if we can get some comments in the chat, because all the people who donated. Let me just run this down. I'll do it here, and I'll fire them here, guys. So we don't confuse. Let's see. Lou Marston says, Dan, we don't have a DH. Come on.
Yeah, Jock Peterson is your DH.
Yeah, no, he's he was talking about, I'm sure, Ohtani. Let's see. Somebody said, MF said John Lund is going live right now as well. Johnny, we love you, brother. We love you. Let's see what else. We've got this one. Anonymous. Well, Larry, as much as we all love Crawford, he's never been in Correa's realm. Yeah, there's just no doubt.
Arguably, though, Crawford's
a better defender
in 2021. I mean, that was
Crawford was MVP season in 21.
Yeah,
and Crawford's the longest tenured Giant, and he's a great guy, and everybody loves him. And
Absolutely.
I just hope that he doesn't lose face over this, because that's a tough thing when you lose face in a room. And here's the thing too. I remember talking to Bill Miller and Rich Aurelia about this when Aurelia was playing short and Miller was playing third. And I was asking him about the differences between, like Richie, about the differences between short and third. And he was telling me that, short, you obviously have to have foot speed and quickness, and you have to break right. You got more real estate to cover. But at third, he's like, you need fast reflexes because the ball is coming so fast at you on the corners. So I think that's going to be the challenge for Crawford.
I would not be surprised.
The instincts,
Larry?
not the instincts, but the reactions at third.
Larry, I would not be surprised. There may be a deal that they worked out with Correa, because Correa is going to respect Crawford
to play a different position.
No, listen here. That Correa plays third base against right-handed pitching and plays shortstop against lefties, where Crawford is platoon. But and that then this is obviously Crawford's last contract year. Maybe he says, "Hey, look, when you look at it, maybe it's just he makes that deal for a year to." It's possible. It's possible.
Heister field goal says $4.99. The Giants defense was terrible last year, and Correa, being one of the best defenders in the game, will definitely help them attract pitchers. MF says, Larry looking good. You like that with the Giant playoff hat tonight? I'm going with the trucker hat.
I'm not going to lie. When you guys started, I did not think about I'm not ashamed to say I wasn't thinking about the whole shift going away and how sweet it would be to have Crawford at second base and just that middle of the field is just freaking plugged up. That would be sick.
There was speculation today that the Mets were talking, could have been agent talk, but that he was going to go to the Mets possibly.
Crawford?
No, Correa.
I saw that.
I
Ned
did see that as
Correa,
well.
you know.
XX Bay Area 49er XX 499. He says, "What's this fantasy I keep hearing about Ohtani? Have the Angels publicly said they're shopping him?"
Oh, we did that one earlier. Yeah.
Oh,
The Angels didn't say they're shopping him.
No,
No.
nobody.
At most, you'll get like a Bleacher Report article saying some people unnamed inside baseball are saying there's a chance that Ohtani could be moved if the price is right.
You know, to me,
Jaguayo says, "Keep Rodon. Our staff would be serious." Joey Gallo.
to
We
me,
also
the
have this
move.
one. Hutch serves gaming. Offense will be higher across the league with DH and no shift next year. The Giants should go out and trade for Ohtani right now and get it done. One more here from Cole Dixon, $1.99. Dan thinks this is a fantasy baseball team.
Yeah, I sure do. Yeah.
Danny's just thinking big. Danny's a deal maker.
Yeah, I'm more in the lines of AJ Preller, Dave Dombrowski. You know, you guys that think this is enough, I'm telling you, this is a good move. But
I want Will Myers. I want some right-handed power.
They're still not listed. If you went to Vegas, they're still not listed as a playoff team.
Oh, I bet I would guess what, 85.5?
They're probably right around there. Yeah.
We got this one. BCast12 says trade Luciano for Corbin Burns and sign Carlos Rodon.
It might even be less.
That would be just ridiculous. Pitching.
It might even be less than that, Rye, if they lose Rodon. I mean,
that's what if you truly, I do believe that at this point, like Rodon and Correa are pretty similar in terms of what they mean.
The WAR, wins above replace, or
John Harley says, "I feel like Farhan will still make a splash, and I feel like a trade for Ohtani is coming."
What, based off what previous history? The Correa signing?
Yeah.
I mean, if ownership, what's Anonymous saying? Oh, Dan, really? What's he talking about there? I don't know.
Oi, Dan.
Oi, Dan.
Oi.
You know, I mean, if anybody thinks that this move, you know, all of a sudden, you know, it's a great move in the right direction.
It's at 79.5. This guy's Johnny Chisari is in Vegas. He said the win total 79.5.
Yeah, so I thought lower than 85. But is that change? Is that after Correa, or is that
One End said, "What's up, Larry? Been missing you since I only really listen on KMBR in the car." Somebody says a Brian Reynolds trade. I think Reynolds absolutely makes total sense.
It would be a great move. A switch hitter that could play.
Maybe you can get something else in that trade too.
Yeah, maybe you can get Bednar's brother to be.
That would be nice.
You know, get
give me that free
David Bednar and get him in the bullpen and get Rogers. And then
so guys, by comparison, Correa got 13 years, $350. Judge got what?
9 and $360.
9 and $360.
But we still have a whole
quite a bit less for Correa. Quite a bit.
$13 million a year. I mean, that's huge. The Giants right now are sitting at 202. Okay, if the if it's roughly $27 million a year and it's spread out over 13 years evenly, they're at $202 million.
Danny, what does AAV mean for Niner MMA 86?
Annual average what is it? The
average annual value. Yep.
Average annual value of the contract. So $27 million brings them to 202. The tax threshold is 239. They still have 30 plus million that they can go out and spend. You know, and
would you do this? Romo 2001, pay for Dansby Swanson. Middle infield defense will be a lock for the infield, especially with the shift gone.
Yeah, Romo and I were talking today, and he threw that out to me, and I threw it out.
How about this one? Trade for Tatis, put him in the outfield. Danny, what do you think?
I want to see how
that Tatis, shoulder worries me.
Yeah, I want to see how he does.
It's chronic.
Without the juice. You know, I want to see if he's still a 30 plus.
How about this one?
Wait,
this is interesting. Anonymous. The realistic moves are Swanson at second, Taylor Rogers for the bullpen, trade Luciano package for Burns, maybe Christian Yelich as well. Would you take on Christian Yelich's contract in a deal, Dan. That's interesting. Yelich makes a boatload of cash. He's been hugely disappointing. He's not old. What's
he a
wrong?
center
What
fielder
is
still?
wrong with Christian Yelich?
Is he still center fielder?
Yeah.
Or is he left field now?
I don't know.
I think he's center. Let me double check. I'll double check that.
Yeah, I thought I saw him in left field more.
I mean, yeah, like I feel like we definitely do that.
I mean, you know, Burns is how many
Yelich-
years?
I don't think that's like. I think he's saying like these are like could in a world happen, but I mean, still are very.
I love the idea of Swanson at second, simply because I think you can get him for around 25 a year. Because to me, he was the fourth, but he's a solid baseball player. He's starting to hit for power. He's had 30 home run seasons. Dansby Swanson is a really, really solid player. If you added him up the middle, I mean, my goodness, now you're really got some.
There's no chance they get Swanson.
Trade for Buxton and Burns. I mean, Byron Buxton would be a great center fielder.
Wait,
I mean,
it's like what Ned just said, Dan. It's like now that Correa is gone, Swanson can have anything he wants. Like he might be able to get a 11-year deal for $280 or something.
He may get overpaid. His value, the talk was, yesterday was that he was going to get less than everybody else. But if he's the last guy standing, and there's a lot of bidders, who knows? Maybe the desperation sets in.
He's going to be probably in that 10-year range of 280.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So that would be insane to commit that much to two guys. I mean, Dan, what do you think about just the fact that, like, I mean, when the numbers get that big, it's hard to even put your mind around them. It's like 13, whatever. But it's like
I'd actually go into pitching. I'd have more pitching.
I know, but think about the difference in our minds between a 1-year deal with Carlos Rodon and a 5-year deal with Carlos Rodon. It's like, oh my God, I would never do 5 years. That's a century versus a 1 year. But that's the difference between that, like, that's the difference between a 9-year deal and a 13-year deal. Like, that's insane.
Hey, guys, what do you think of Al Wong? He says, what about a trade for Rafael Devers, third baseman for the Red Sox?
The Casey Schmidt's, unless you're going to trade to Casey Schmidt.
How about sick call commando? Give me Andrew Benintendi, Benny Biceps, in the leadoff spot in left.
I would. Yeah.
And he's out.
Why don't we run our commercials since Dan?
Okay, let's do this. We'll run the commercials. We'll be back in a couple minutes, and we'll finish up in the chat. And we still got another 25 minutes or so because we're going to take this thing to midnight. But if you're still in there, still have over 500 people in the room. We'll play a couple commercials here that sponsors our show. If you're in the chat for the first time, and with 500 plus people in the chat, there probably are people that have never been here before. If you could hit like and subscribe, that would be great. If you want to join the Krueg Show, it's like $4.99 a month, but hit like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm and helps grow the show. We would appreciate that kindly. We do a number of live streams after Giants, Niners, Warriors games, and of course, we have been covering the 49ers this year for TalkSport out of London. So Ryan and I have been in the Niner locker room throughout the year, and will continue to be throughout the rest of the year, bringing you live player interviews to the Krueg Show. So hit like and subscribe if you like it, what you're watching, if you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back in a few minutes with more on the Krueg Show. Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environments. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, make sure you use telmetrics.co, TELMETRIX.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com or at his number, 925-628
628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Dan Cochimilio and all the people at Secure Money for being proud sponsors of the Krueg Show. And thanks to Tony Cassera and the good people at Cassera's Italian Menswear. They are housing the Krueg Show t-shirts, and they're a proud sponsor of the show as well. The Krueg Show t-shirt, the Krueg Show podcast t-shirt is available there at their store in Dublin. Their address is 7372 San Ramon Road in Dublin, California. And go see Tony Cassera and get yourself a Krueg Show t-shirt and support the show. And special thanks to our sponsor, New York Style Italian Sausage. That's right, NewYorkStyleSausage.com is their website. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo. You cannot go wrong with New York Style Italian Sausage. Once again, NewYorkStyleSausage.com. Often imitated, never equaled.
We grew up with a Sunday dinner. That means no matter how busy you were, no matter where the hell you were, you came to dinner on a Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday dinner without sausage, it's like a church without God. You know, how can you go to church if you don't believe in God? You know, and along with the sausage also became the discussions. That was discussion night. You know, it wasn't a typical family that you sit there and you're quiet, you know, and you don't talk with a mouthful. Oh no, man. Italians talk when they're eating. Italians even talk when they're sleeping. And definitely we talk with our hands. So if we can't express it through our mouth, through our lips, we express it with our hands. So, and that's what sausage is, really. It's an expression, you know, that life is good.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, you know, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York Style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it, guaranteed.
Hey, Pasquale. Dan Cochimilio here for the Krueg Show. Just picked up for the very first time some of your New York style Italian sausage here at Sam's Club in Arizona. My wife just cooked it, and I'm about to take a bite. Man, this is good. Pasquale, when you winked and said you guaranteed we'd love it, you're right. This stuff is absolutely amazing. Best sausage I've ever tasted. Thank you, Pasquale.
The roof directly above the hole is on page 2 and is the top picture. This is why the hole was generated, because the roof is bad.
So just so everyone has a little bit of history here, I know I talked to somebody, a couple of you before the meeting, but this home.
Hey, Pasquale.
That last one was
yeah.
Danny.
There's
that
one
last one
more.
was Danny at the HOA.
Rye,
meeting.
the engineer.
There's one
behind-
more.
All right, let's get fired up here. Let's go. Who wants to be? Up. Yeah! I want to be on the Larry Kruger show. Yeah! All right.
Let's go, Giants!
All right, we're out here in the bleachers for the Larry Kruger show.
Larry Kruger!
Yeah, we're gonna be on YouTube right now tonight. All right. Okay. When I say Larry, you say Kruger. Larry.
Kruger!
Larry.
Kruger!
Larry.
Kruger!
All right, let's hear it one more time. Come on. Come on. All right, Larry.
Kruger!
Larry.
Kruger!
All right. Hey.
Oh, man. All right. Welcome back to the Krug Show. Larry
Look at all
Kruger,
these
Dan
new
Coach
people.
Amelia, Ryan Smith with you. I was going to say after Giants baseball, but after Farhan Zaidi added Carlos Correa to the Giants mix. We've had Ned Colletti on. We've had Mark Willard on. Adam Copeland just sent me a text. He said Rye invited him or told him he should come on. I said, come on, Copes, join us. And he said he's just climbing into the rack, so maybe later this week. But Copes loves talking baseball. All right, there's a lot of people out there that are pretty excited. This is got to be one of the most exciting weeks in Bay Area sports history. The Niners may have found their quarterback of the future, maybe putting the cart before the horse, but you know how I feel about Brock Purdy. The Warriors have kind of stumbled to start the year, but have found themselves. And I still think you're going to see the Warriors in the finals come June. And I really believe that, despite the problems they're having right now. When the finals roll around, the Warriors are going to be there. And then you've got the Giants who, man, it was looking bleak. And I was losing my mind as they were, going after nobody, losing out, and now getting Carlos Correa. Huge, huge moment for Farhan Zaidi. So we have well over 400, close to 450 people still in the chat. I want to make sure that everybody who did donate money to us in the super chats, that we read their super chats. So want to make sure that Shantae Ortega just says Kruger. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, while you're looking at those chats, I will say this, while you're looking for those, I will say that I felt the same way you did, Larry, about getting frustrated with Farhan. And maybe Willard was correct. Maybe they had all along knew that they probably weren't going to get Judge, and they were quietly kind of working in the background with,
I don't think so.
I mean, Pete Patulia was with Houston. Maybe he has a pretty good relationship with Correa. And that the fact that they knew it was going to come down to when the market after Bogarts.
Wait. Carlos P brings up a good point. We are elated.
Yeah.
Very much elated.
Yeah. We're elated tonight. Yeah. I would say that this about Farhan, we all have been pretty harsh with his way he's gone about things. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, this was a great signing tonight, and getting Minaya and Stripling are big moves to bring more depth to the pitching staff. And I got to believe he's not done, because I think the next move is a subtraction of salary with an addition. I think it's a trade. And I think they're at 202. I feel like the Giants want to hang around 200, not 230. I just so I sense that maybe they trade one of these guys, whether it be a DeSclafani or a Wood, because they're each making close to DeSclafani's 12. I think Wood's 10 to 12, somewhere in there. You drop somebody like that.
Wait, here, let me just do the chat. Let me do the chat.
Yeah.
Just because I want to make sure we're getting all the chats. Aaron L says, Fierce 499. Giants showed their cards to Boris with their Judge offer, and he pounced on their desperation. By the way, Larry, miss you doing pajamagram ads right about now. Oh, they're soft and they're silky. You're going to love the way she's going to love the way they feel. You're going to love the way they look. Oh, pajamagram. Get them now while you can. Man, those were rough ads. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Did you buy a pair, Larry?
Yeah, she's going to love how soft they feel, and you're going to love the way they look. I mean, it was just so creepy.
Oh, and aren't they? I heard one last night when I was driving. It's like they give you that nude look feeling,
right,
or something like
pajamas or whatever.
We got this one, Glass Half Full guy. Do you guys feel this is? Do you guys feel this deal was Farhan feeling pressure from the fans to get this deal done? I think there's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt at all that Farhan is aware. Farhan, I believe, is the kind of guy that comes home from work, kisses his wife and kid, has a little dinner, and before he goes to bed, he checks Twitter. He types his name into Twitter to see who, he searches his own name to see, what's being said about him. I really believe that. I think he's keenly aware of what's being said about him in the media. I really do. I think some guys turn it off. I don't think he's one of them. Jaguar 56, Trey Mancini for the outfield, first base, or DH?
You don't want him in the outfield. First base.
Thank you for the
okay.
donation, Jaguar.
First base would be Mancini's not a bad option.
We get this one. This is great, but who else can the Giants add? I don't want to just be content with Correa as good as he is. Do we get that one?
Not sure, but they can't be content because they're not a playoff team yet. I mean, like you said, right? Vegas has them at 79.5. I mean,
they don't even have them at 500.
Yeah, they need to. Well, because they're losing Rodon. The guy was top 5 Cy Young.
Who are they going to lose Rodon to?
Mets or Yankees is my guess.
Okay.
Maybe the Orioles. Orioles are an outside. They've got tons of money. They got tons of money. They're only like 84 million for the year with commitments to. So, I mean, you add a Rodon, you're still a little over, you're like 110.
Glass half full guy, 499. Maybe it's just me, but I have a hard time seeing the Brewers trading Yelich, but maybe I'm wrong and they want to get out from that contract bad enough. You got to remember, Yelich is not nearly the player that he was 3 years ago. I think they would probably die to get out from underneath that contract. MF jumps in with love the spicy Italian. Maybe he was talking Ned. Maybe he was talking sausage. Who knows?
Hey, how about calling up Scott Harris and saying, hey, hook up Javi Baez with Correa? That'd be a pretty nasty defense up the middle. Now
you want Javi Baez at his $113 million commitment. I mean, the Giants are going to spend, but you want them to spend like a drunken sailor.
No, how much is the AAV? I don't worry about the length of because that's
I think it's like 13 or 14 a year, isn't it?
Let me look it up. I'll look it up.
Look it up. It's a lot. The one thing about Javi Baez is that I thought there was some unprofessionalism in some of his ABs where he's just kind of giving away ABs because he's not focused. I don't know. I mean, I love watching him. I'll say this. Javi Baez is one of my favorite players to watch in the game because he's electric. I mean, I can watch that guy just tag guys at second base and be entertained. I mean, he is really fun to watch.
What's a little scary is that Christian Yelich signed his contract when he was 28 also. And now he's 31 and they're already like trying to get rid of his contract. Has 6 more years left.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. It's bad. I mean, they got it. Hey, the Giants just moved from 17th tonight in payroll to 8th.
By the way, Danny did not eat raw sausage.
Yeah,
every time we show that ad, people are like, is Danny eating raw sausage?
You guys even listen to the ad? It says my wife
that would eat raw sausage.
It says my wife cooked it and I'm about to eat it. And you can,
what I like is the amount of time between when you put it in your mouth to when you said it was good.
Yeah.
Because
I mean-
the first 6 takes, I spit the food out. I said, "Oh, this is great."
I also like the crinkling of the bag. There's something about the crinkling of the bag.
Yeah, you know what?
Very authentic.
I'll tell you why people are saying it's raw. It's because you did so many takes. It seems like maybe that the bag like thawed out, and so it was like all of these raw sausages, just this raw sausage color. But
that's the color it is when you buy it, and they were in the fridge.
Here we go. Did Chic Niner said Farhan redeemed himself? Did Farhan redeem himself?
I mean, sure.
I would say yes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's a gutsy move, and
how about this? Will people who maybe don't know the game tomorrow bring up the cheating as a negative?
No,
I don't care. I could care less about Carlos Correa's association with the Astros and this and that. And the cheating to me is like, what? No, I don't care anything about the cheating with the Astros. But how many people do you think tomorrow will be like, we don't want that cheater? Do you think that would be a factor?
A lot more in LA than here, I think.
It might be used as like if somebody's like showing his playoff numbers or talking about his numbers, people will be like, well, they were using buzzers or whatever.
How about this one? We've got Skywalker Destroyer 52. I'm in shock that we got Carlos Correa, and I'm shocked Brock Purdy defeated Tom Brady. A lot of shock. Permaculture Now says, you guys completely ruined my cryptography class studying tonight, and I love it. What is cryptography, Ryan?
Is that like handwriting? Like really good handwriting?
Wouldn't that be called
cartography?
Cryptography?
Boy, Baez's contract was
what do you
6 years was 140,000.
140 million.
I keep saying million. Look at Correa's 13.
I know.
And 350. I mean, Javi Baez became a free agent. I mean, the guys that became free agents this year versus last year, they're like, dang, this is like an unbelievable year to be a free agent because this is the richest deals ever handed out. I mean,
it's kind of stressing me out. Like, that happened in the NBA that one year when like all of a sudden it was like everyone at once realized that the contract, like the cap was going up. So they all there was some crazy deal for Timothy Mozgov after the finals and all these crazy people got signed to ridiculous deals, Bazemore. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh my God, what did we do? And it's kind of scary when you think about guys like Correa or just how many guys get signed to like 6 years deals and you feel like you're in a lifelong sentence if they're not performing in the second year.
Oh yeah. These 10 plus year deals, they're going to be awful on the backside.
Yeah. It's just get used to it. Johnny Cesari. Larry, the Giants just got a franchise reset, and the 49ers might have an all-time great defense. We got this one from senior softball games. Danny, will you get the same seats, or are you going to switch it up this year?
Well, it depends what they do over the next. I got till early January, maybe mid-January before I lose my seat license.
What would it take for you to renew your season tickets? J.C. Graham wants to know.
It would take them doing something like Brian Reynolds, or
a hitter.
Swanson.
You want to see a hitter. Danny wants some offense.
Yeah, I want some more offense and solid offense with good defense.
You guys remember the Seinfeld where Elaine was like, Jimmy likes this, Jimmy likes that. What if that every time we just go with Danny wants some offense?
Yeah,
Danny needs some defense.
Yeah, let's see. Baez hit 238 last year with 17 homers, 67 RBIs, and he's making like 23,000 a year right now. I don't know.
Carlo P, safe to say we're elated? Yeah, we're elated.
How about the Barry Zito deal? I was just looking it up in comparison because that seemed like the longest deal of my lifetime. That was only 7 years.
Yeah.
I didn't remember Gary on the radio. And then it goes on, and another year after that. And Zito got pissed. He's like, man, stop taking my stuff out, putting me out in the street.
Yeah. I mean, it's a, what people don't understand that get on it is, like Ned said, this is the market.
This is the going rate.
Hey,
This is
Stay
the going
Greasy
rate right
says,
now.
who did you guys interview in Santa Clara today? Well, Rye, who did we get today?
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise. We can't tell you. Glass half full guy, $4.99. Maybe it's just me, but I have a hard time seeing. Okay, we already read that one. Okay, here about this one. Dusty Gold, Giants were lagging in the front pages of Bay Area sports. Finally got something done. People, young fans are like, excuse me, what pages are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it sets up for like some great ripping. Years 6 through 13 are going to be, there's going to be so many takes about him, I feel like. But if they win one, then that's all that matters. I mean, the fact that Crawford is like, feels like he's washed now and he's like 35.
Romo 2001, Pete Fish Hands Petulia, maybe the man. Fish Hands?
The clammy one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Let me ask you guys about the contract. So there are
He's
defining
changing the subject from hands.
there are defining moments. There are defining moments in everybody's contract. Did Barry Zito's Game 5 performance against the Cardinals in the NLCS 2012, that game, did it make the contract signing him worth it?
No.
In my book, it did. Just
No,
because.
come on. It's ridiculous.
I mean, they wouldn't have won the World Series.
Come on.
They won the World Series.
I know, but I mean, I mean,
Plus, he pitched Game 1 against Detroit. That, to me, those two games, I don't care how much you paid him.
That is coming from a guy who wasn't paying Zito out of his own pocket. If you paid Zito out of your own pocket, you wouldn't have that take.
Of course, but I didn't.
Okay. All right, thank you.
But
you may
listen,
step down
as a fan, my goodness.
It's funny. Gary and I talked about this for years, and I used to annoy the hell out of him because I'd take the take that you took. I'd be like, Gary, come on. He won the big playoff game. It was a pearl. He laid down a pearl of a bunt. He beat Verlander in Game 1 of the World Series. They won the World Series. He vindicated the deal. Gary be like, come on. It was $126 million. Yeah. But he did. I will say this, Zito, it wasn't just that playoff run. Zito went 16-6, I believe, that year. Look it up. But wasn't Zito 16-6 in the 2012 year?
I got
I'm pretty sure he was.
Right
Look it
here.
up.
Let's take a look.
I mean,
he was like a 15 or 16 game winner.
Like what I mean, personally, like the whole like Anthony Davis trade proposition like frightens me. Like, they get, but like you have to say they won the trade because they won in that bubble championship. But it's like, I mean, their Lakers franchise is over. And then like the Rams
15-8
say that the Rams won, like the Rams did the right things. The Stafford, they won the Super Bowl, but now they're screwed for like ever. And the Detroit has like a top 3 pick.
MF is making fun of my commercials on the radio. Have you taken a stroll down the mighty San Joaquin at River Islands? Oh yeah, there's a boathouse grill, and there's a new K-8 charter school coming in the fall, and it's a great place. Get out to Lathrop. How many guys would be like, Krug, dude, you're a lifelong San Franciscan. I just heard you on the radio advocating moving to Lathrop. I had a buddy who called me and said, bro, you live in Lathrop? I'm like, no, I don't live in Lathrop. He's like, I just heard your commercial. I'm like, just because I'm doing a commercial for homes in Lathrop doesn't mean I live in Lathrop. He's like, Krug, you were making it sound like it was Nirvana. I'm like, well, all right. So I do a good job on commercials. What can I say?
What do you guys? You guys were.
Go ahead. There.
You guys were more, with it. Like I was way too young. Like, is this true that the Giants were in the same position that they are now when they overpaid for Zito?
Yeah, they were 2000. What was that?
They
2000.
needed a likable face of the franchise, and Zito was a durable pitcher, and so because of it, and he was had the local connection with the A's, and he was,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
were
so
awful in 2007 when they
yeah,
got
I
him.
mean, they were looking for somebody they were looking for that pitcher that would hold his value, and they thought it would be him. And I think they were partially right because he wasn't a power pitcher; he was more of a finesse curveball guy. But I think they paid him a lot, and he didn't really live up to the deal. But eventually, they got it done on the back end. I don't
He
know. It's
never
complicated.
really. I mean, even though he pitched, well in 2012 as far as record wise, he still had an ERA of 4.15 in that ballpark, which is
Not great. Not
I don't
great.
agree,
Jubbio
but-
56 says, here's $2. Giants were 500 last year. Can they get to 91 wins in 2023?
not with the current roster. No.
No, I would say no too, but they
I don't think they're done.
They need some power, and they need another starter, and they need probably a really good reliever.
You know what? I got a question. What about the whole baseball schedule thing, the way it changed? Are they not playing as many games versus the NL West now because they're playing every
Correct.
team?
14
so that
instead
is
of
a
19.
positive thing to look at if you're looking at the team total over, because that was like really brutal. They had to continuously play the freaking Dodgers and the Padres. So
yeah, it's more like 13 or 14, I think it is.
Louis Allen says, hopefully the Giants gave Correa a $25 million signing bonus. That would lower the AAV to $25 million per year. Do they give him a signing bonus?
No terms discussed as far as the details, just the 13,350. I think we'll probably hear about it more tomorrow. But
Eric says he hears the Twins are in on Swanson now. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Swanson's gonna get freaking.
I agree with Jim Thurkill, who says trade for Brian Reynolds. That would be great. I think Reynolds would be perfect. I really
just don't want to mortgage the future, like when we're not gonna be a serious contender.
I hear that too. I mean, I understand where you're coming from there. It's like, why move Luciano for a guy who could be a free agent in 2 years if
you
froze there.
But I'll say this. The Giants traded, they've traded prospects in the past, and Giants fans lost it. When Giants traded Tim Alderson for Freddie Sanchez, man, Giants fans were like, what? You traded Tim Alderson? Because they had done a really good job at kind of selling Alderson as like one of the aces of their rotation in the future. But obviously when he kind of percolated through the farm system, they obviously changed their opinion on him, and they wound up trading him for Freddie Sanchez. Well, the Giants went on and won the World Series, and Alderson became a zero. He never did anything. So, sometimes, I mean, the bottom line is this. You never know if you're trading the next Brian Reynolds or if you're trading the next Tim Alderson. That's why you got to really trust that your GM has not just handicapped what he's getting, but handicapped what he's giving in these trades.
Sean P., our good buddy Sean Proctor, he bet on the Giants at plus 250 for getting Correa.
Nice.
So he said he tried to bet 500, but they only let him bet 50. So,
so Larry, and that's my only thing though, is like, the Freddie Sanchez thing, at least they were competing for a championship, like for real. I just don't think this team can compete for a championship even with Reynolds and some other things.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing about it is I hear what you're saying, but like in 2010, when they made that trade, they hadn't won a World Series still since 62.
You want to
compete since 54.
You want to compete.
I guess they already had their like young homegrown guys though.
You want to compete for Correa, for World Series this year? Here's what you do. It's not great. I know you don't like it, but you sign Rodon to a 6-year, 180 deal, and you hope you get 3 great years out of him. And then you trade DeSclafani or Wood and you knock off another 12 million there, and then you'd probably get Rodon for 25 mil a year, and then you go out and then trade some of the young guys, and then you add a Reynolds type guy who's not very expensive still. Now you've got one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, depth, and you got two aces, and you've got, a solid lineup. Because it's, in the end, the only way they're not going to be able to get 4 stars like the Padres. Okay, they're not going to have that. They're not going to have what the Phillies have. I mean, Phillies lineup. You
That's
look
my
at
thing. I'm like,
But Giants need a really good, athletic, young center fielder that they can build around.
I mean,
go trade for that piece.
Look at the Phillies, though. Every position. First base, they got Rhys Hoskins. Second
Well,
base.
that's what I'm saying. Don't you need an A lineup or an A pitching staff?
Yeah, you need one or the other, right? That's why I would go with the pitching, because that's pitching and defense. Phillies have Bryce Stott at second, Trey Turner at third. They got the kid Bohm and then their outfield is Schwarber,
ridiculous,
and Castellanos. And who plays center for the Phillies?
Harper? No.
What would Correa
Roman Quinn? They had Roman Quinn for a while.
No, they had that
Mickey Moniak.
They traded
what
Moniak.
would Correa and Brian Reynolds hit on like the Dodgers or the Padres or the Phillies?
Phillies center fielder is Brandon Marsh.
That's right, from
Brandon
the Angels.
Marsh.
Yeah, that's right. But they have this.
They'd hit
Carlo Pieces. Get Marty on this week if you can.
You got to get. They're not there, and that's why I say you're going to have to go with a salt, like Ned said. Pitching, and I mean,
is there any opt out? Did we get it? Was there any new? Corey Cooper says no trade clause, no opt out for Correa. It doesn't sound like there's any opt outs, huh?
I don't even know.
That's a major part of this.
Right.
I mean, if a guy gets a 13-year deal and you give him a second-year opt out, then it's really not a 13-year deal. It's a 2-year deal.
Ken Rosenthal, 4th largest guarantee in baseball history for Correa, behind Trout 426, Betts 365, and Judge 360. Largest for a shortstop, surpassing Lindor. I said it was going to be 11 years, 350, because I knew it was. Remember the other night I said it's going to be over 341. I said it'll be 350. I didn't think it would be 13 years. I'm actually happier that the 13 years, because you're going to eat those last few years anyway. So better to eat 27 million a year than 30 something a year, and plus it gives them the flexibility to add more. I just think their payroll is right now, it's listed at 178 for the 26-man roster and 202 for the 40-man roster. I just think they're probably going to be right around 220-ish. And I don't think they'll go up to the threshold of 231 or whatever it is, 232. But I think they'll want to have some room. But you still have room to add. So I do think trades are going to be what's going to happen. I just hope. I personally want to keep Luciano unless I get he's included in a package for like Ohtani or something. Because I think
I'd like a position player, of note in return for him. Not a platoon player, an everyday position player of note. I'll say this: Luciano potentially is the kind of player that 10-year-olds all around the Bay Area are going to want to buy his jersey.
Yes.
So if I'm trading Luciano, I want the same thing in return. I want a player that when he comes in, 10-year-olds all around the Bay Area are like, I want that guy's jersey. And I think Brian Reynolds could be that kind of player. I think Laureano in a package could be a really nice Giant. I think
you can get
the way he plays.
Laureano with
probably cheaper than Luciano.
Oh yeah, I don't think you have to give up a Luciano. I think maybe you have to give up a Matos and maybe maybe they're going to want a Luciano.
Maybe there's. I'm just saying, I would be willing, now that I have Correa, I don't need Luciano, and I can trade Luciano for a player. I take Rhys Hoskins. I would take that kind of player. I would take a big time offensive player that could play every day and impact me in 2023. That's all I'm doing. I want a guy now. I'll give you tomorrow, and you may even win the deal. But I want to have somebody who can do it for me now.
Did you say, I was reading something? Did you say you would give up a Luciano for a Rhys Hoskins?
I would give up Luciano in a deal if I could get, a significant player like Rhys Hoskins, who Giants fans would then buy his jersey.
Well, there's a guy that might stay long term too. He's from Sac, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
he went to Jesuit. He went to Sac State.
And there's your first base issue solved, and he's a power hitter. He'd probably hit
a right-handed hitter.
What is he, a 30 home run guy, Hoskins?
Yeah.
He's awesome.
I mean, I know
you might be able to get more. You might be able to get more than that. You never know. I mean, it's Hoskins. Might be able to get more than just. Might be able to make a bigger deal. Hey, that's going to do it for us, though. We are 3 hours and 4 minutes into this live stream.
On just this one, we had the first one. It was about an hour, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, yeah. How long was the first one?
Yeah, we started it.
I think it's like an hour and a half.
We came on
it's
at
midnight. It's 10 after midnight.
Yeah,
Chic Niner says, "Great show, guys. First time watching. Sorry, I'm late to the party."
Hit the like and subscribe, Chic.
Yeah, I was going to say to everybody who's in this, we still have close to 400 people in the room. I don't know that we've ever walked away from a live stream with 400 people in the room. It's like goes against everything that I know to do. But, we definitely want to get on with the rest of our night. I know a lot of you guys do as well. Permaculture says, great show. MF says, love the show. Lots of people had a good time tonight. Senior softball games, great show tonight, fellas. So if you are in, Eric L said, love the show. We really appreciate everybody who watched the show, everybody who came through with the super chats, everybody who's donated to the show.
There went mute. You went mute.
There you go, mute.
If you're in the chat for the very first time, and you want to help us out, hit like and subscribe. Hit like and subscribe, and that helps the algorithm and makes more people find our show. So hit like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube on the computer, you can hit join, and you can be part of our special members group that gets all of our exclusive content. It's like $4.99 a month.
We had an old Purdy video in there that was like 8 minutes long. That's a gold interview that we had just for the members only thing for how many couple months? I think we just put it out.
Yeah, seriously. If you want some great stuff on Brock Purdy, go check that out. But hit like and subscribe. Also, we did a commercial. We played a commercial earlier tonight for the Krueg Show t-shirts, and I'm actually wearing one. This is the Krueg Show t-shirt, and I just ordered 50 of them. So if anybody wants a Krueg Show t-shirt, we're selling them at Casera's men's store, Italian menswear in Dublin. But you can also DM me on Twitter. They're $25 plus shipping. And if you just send me your address, I will ship you one and try to make sure that it's there before the holidays. We're getting a whole new
right. This is funny.
The next day or two.
We should have members only jackets.
Yeah, with those little things up top, those little tassels. Yeah, those things are terrible. Shante Ortega says, great show. Mike Ross said subscribed. Appreciate that, Mike. Really do appreciate that.
Hey, we went up to 8.34. Weren't we at like an 8.1 going into tonight?
Yeah, picked up a couple hundred people probably tonight.
Yeah.
Once again, Chic Niner, everyone hit that like and subscribe. So definitely great content. Go Niners, go Giants, go Warriors. JB says, great show. KM 1031, great show today.
Subscribe. We want to get to 9,000.
Johnny Chisari said, Larry, great show. Appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Johnny. Jace Graham says, you guys are the best. Mercedes, BMW, Porsche. Larry, you lazy.
That's right.
You're lazy,
man.
I'll tell you again, Larry, you're lazy. Okay, we got this one from Stan Snipsar.
Yes.
Been following and commenting all on Twitter, joining the YouTube community. All right, that is fantastic.
You know what I'll say?
Fantastic.
Yeah. Wait, thanks,
Graves says he wants a 2XL. I got 2XLs, XLs, and larges. And I'm going to order some triple XLs for some of our bigger fans. And Jeremy Lopez, Larry the Goat, thank you. Chiguayo donates $2 more. Please give me Pasquale. Let me sleep.
We grew up with a Sunday dinner. We grew up with a Sunday dinner.
No matter where
We
you
grew up with a Sunday dinner.
What's better, that or this?
Hey, Pasquale. Hey, Pasquale. Hey, Pasquale. Jeez.
All right.
Hey, what I'll say, my last parting thought is this. The signing of Carlos
No, we're not
Correa-
talking about Dan's hands. All right. Stop that.
The signing of Carlos Correa goes much beyond the actual terms of the contract. It's the fact that they actually got a star to sign with them. It's been since 1993.
It's
when the
Farhan's
Giants-
Andre Iguodala.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's the first guy. So this is going to allow others to come because Carlos
Pasquale
is one of the most respected ball players in the game with other players. So this is a big thing. It's a big thing. So Dan is the worst salesman.
Hey, Pasquale.
Well, wait, I'm the worst salesman? Wait a minute.
What? Dan is the worst salesman?
Oh, my
Mercedes,
goodness.
BMW. Wait a second. Have you not seen Dan in full-fledged sales mode?
Hey, Pasquale.
I'm the worst salesman, man. Hey, wow. Okay.
Dan,
Well,
don't be
is
sensitive.
this the same? Don't we
I've
have
heard
don't
they
we have
say
a
people
BM
with
Lotus?
smaller hands are very sensitive.
Don't we have another guy that's Mercedes, BMW, Lotus or something?
Yes.
Wait,
That's pretty.
Dan, we should,
MF just dropped a.
hey,
MF
Pasquale.
MF just dropped a.
Hey, Pasquale.
Dan, we should record some more commercials, just like
Yeah, I
ridiculous
should.
commercials of us do. Like when we were in person, though, like some high quality ones.
Yeah. Wait a
Great
minute.
stuff, man.
Dan
I'm
has
having-
ADHD. Yes, I do. Thank you. I do have that.
Jaguayo 56. Good night, gentlemen. Stay blessed. Hey, I just want to say we've been doing this since March, and really having a good time. Loving the YouTube format. Loving the opportunity to do these shows with Dan and Rye. Love the content we're producing with the 49ers. We have some incredible post-game Warrior discussions with Kylan Mills, Cyrus Satsis, Frank Red, Carl Foster, Bay Area Baller, Eric Price. We have some incredible stuff. We do a lot of great Niner stuff with Jordan Elliott and Vish Kumar and Jack Hammer. I talked to Grant this week. We're going to get Grant on the channel next week for an episode. So he's going to stop by. And we're just having a good time. And the rest of this week, we got a Warrior game tomorrow night. We may or may not go live tomorrow night. We'll see how we feel tomorrow night. We definitely will go live, though, Thursday night after Niners Seattle. And because the game is in Seattle, we don't have to do the travel. So when we're at Levi's, we do our post-game show for Talk Sport in London, and then Ryan and I get in the vehicle, drive from Santa Clara back to Walnut Creek. He lives in Lafayette, and then we get on, half hour later, we get on the live stream. So it winds up being 3-4 hours sometimes after the game. Thursday night, that is not going to be the case. The Niners are going to play that game. I think it's probably a 5:30 start. It's going to end around 8:30. We're going to do a live stream, or we're going to do a post game back to London with the great Will Gavin from Talk Sport and Talk Sport 2 fame from about 8:30 to roughly 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock Thursday night, we're jumping right back right here on the live stream to talk to all of you about Brock Purdy's win over the Seahawks. So
that's
that
awesome.
is coming Thursday night. So
and
Danny, you got a final thought? Ryan, you got a final thought?
Speaking of Frank Red, he did tweet out tonight, and I'd like to read it because he's part of the show.
Yeah,
and
we'll play Frank's song on the way out too.
Yeah. So this is from Frank's tweet about an hour ago. The San Francisco Giants underlining message with the Carlos Correa 13-year, $350 million deal is the Giants are a rich franchise. I have no problem with this deal. It gives the Giants what they currently don't have, a star player. If the Giants get 10 years from Correa, they can eat the last 3 years. And then that's a great thought there that Red has. I agree with him. I just wanted to tell you guys that as you're listening, we're working on some things that's coming your way.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the next week or two, but we're working on some things that's going to even make this show even better. And you guys may be getting, you may get sick of us, but we may be on even more.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt. And we're going to be doing a lot of Giant stuff this year. We'd like to go to spring training. We're trying to hook that up.
If anyone has a hotel, owns a hotel, manages a hotel, works in a marketing department at a hotel, that would love to perhaps put us up.
House us in Arizona for a few weeks.
Do the show.
We'd love to take the show to Arizona, go into the Giant clubhouse in the mornings, do some interviews with the players, and then go to the game, watch them, do some live streams in the evenings, and then play you those interviews night after night after night, talking Giants baseball in spring training. So that is the plan. We're trying to make it a reality. We'll talk more about it on these live streams in the days and weeks ahead. But if you're a Giants fan, hopefully we will be bringing you lots of great content.
Oh, and we will definitely do a meet and greet with whoever, all the hardcore Giants fans that are down, that are Krueg fans, that are,
I think Graves has some room at his house. Maybe I'd have Larry and Rye stay here. I'm in Arizona, but there's just not enough room to walk around this house because my hands are so big.
Yeah, Dan's got a hand on things there. All right, let's do this. Let's thank you to everybody, by the way. We couldn't make this channel the success that it is right now and that we plan it to be without all of you. So somebody says a Del Boca Vista takeover. Yes, Carlo. As well. All right. So, hey, you see Rye and you see Danny and you see me, but Frank Red has been joining us during a lot of Warrior games or a lot of Warrior post-game podcasts. And he's a friend of mine. We go way back. And Frank's a freestyle rapper from New York. He played ball at Fordham. And you remember him if you were up in Sacramento because he used to host the show The Dungeon on 1140 on Sunday nights on KHTK, one of my favorite shows for years, and hopefully we'll bring that thing back. But Frank also just collabed with a pretty famous artist herself, and I don't remember her name, but Frank basically put together this rap and then blended it with this artist. And I think it's really, really good. So we're going to let you hear it right now. You can hear it yourself on YouTube. All you got to do is type in Frank Red with no space in between, just Frank Red, FRANK RED on YouTube. And it's called Make Me Feel, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Some of the most positive lyrics you'll ever hear.
And it's got real positive lyrics. It's also got a really cool beat. And we'll play you off right now.
Yeah, and one last thing before we go to that. We've kind of failed to mention it today because, we got talking about the Giants and the Correa. But just want to say to a great man that the sports world lost today in Mike Leach, coach down at Mississippi State, but great man, only 61, one of the funniest characters I've ever heard in coaching, and rest in peace, man. Great man.
No question. Way to end it. Thanks to everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you on Thursday night. Little Frank Red playing us off. Good night, everybody. Go Giants.
The life ain't standing still, and all you can do is bow your head and accept God's will. But it's funny how it makes you feel. I said it's funny how it makes you feel. I said it's funny how it makes you feel. Life is but a thrill. No time for small talk, he didn't mince words, just summed the lyrics to the best song he ever heard. All his hopes and dreams had turned to despair, but what he was facing, there was no way to prepare. This came from a man who thought his life was ending. In his mind, it was serious, there was no pretending. He checked the clock on the wall before he said his goodbyes. Emitting tears, he has gone, see back into his eyes. He was old in life, there'll be no encore. He raised his hands to the heavens, put his knees on the floor. Don't have to be a genius to know he'd been blessed. He said he'd pay it forward, and always do his best. At that moment, what he's been searching for became clear. He was here to serve those who living in fear. With his newfound enlightenment and the wind at his back, he's prepared to live out his life's final act. He was a rich man now, he had purpose in life. And to capture this feeling, you pay a price before we set up on this. Only made a pledge to get some wins and live his life against the grain to the bitter end. You miss your shot at life, you think there's nothing else for you to do. This ain't a tragedy, son, I know I've seen a few. You're not responsible for somebody else's thrill. Your integrity's intact and you're still trying to climb the hill. I was a lonely man, I never thought it would come true. But sometimes in life, all you have are your dreams and you. That's when you realize that life ain't standing still. And all you can do is